What's going on, guys? This is your AEW Full Gear 2023 review. I am the Solomonster. It is early Sunday morning on November 19, 2023. MJF crying at the media scrum. I didn't get a chance to see too much of it, but I know he is apparently getting very emotional at the media scrum. He is still the AEW World Champion coming out of his main event with Switchblade Jay White, which at one point looked like wasn't going to happen, even though we all knew it was going to happen. They took a very weird road to get to that main event tonight. We had an appearance by Adam Cole. Yes, Adam Cole appeared on the pay-per-view tonight with his foot in a walking boot because, of course, he recently had ankle surgery. And this was his first appearance in person since we saw him on Dynamite right after the injury initially happened. And they did an angle where Bullet Club Gold on the pre-show took out MJF. They attacked his leg. He got carted out in an ambulance. And he told Adam Cole, "Don't let them take my championship away from me." So they immediately cast doubt at the end of the pre-show whether or not we were even going to get our main event on the main card. That was the story going into the Full Gear pay-per-view tonight. What would Adam Cole do? Were we going to get a main event for the AEW World title? And what ended up happening is they told this very bizarre story where MJF was not able to compete, and so therefore he was going to be stripped of the AEW World Championship. However, Tony Khan would allow Adam Cole to step in place of MJF and take his spot to defend the world title against Jay White. So effectively, they were replacing one one-legged man with another one-legged man. How that makes any sense, I have no idea. You've got to turn your brain off and basically just remove it from your head. Ask Dave Meltzer, he knows all about that. It happened to Shibata once, apparently. Take the brain out of the skull and just set it on the desk next to you, because that didn't make no fucking sense. However, when MJF eventually made his way back to the building and the bell rang, we got a main event that ended up being excellent. That was an excellent main event between MJF and Jay White. And I know there's going to be a lot of divided opinion about this and how it buried Jay White. He lost to a one-legged man. I don't see it that way. I can understand that point of view, but no, Jay White was not buried. In fact, Jay White was booked very strong heading into this pay-per-view. He got a pinfall win on television over the champion. He's been running around with the AEW World title now for about a month. If anything, I think they went a little overboard to the point where it made it a little too predictable that Jay White was not going to win the world title on this show. Now people are going to be saying that he was buried. He had a competitive match against somebody who, despite his leg injury, overall, I mean, it's not like he was in a body cast, right? Yes, he had an injury going into the match. You do have to suspend your disbelief to some extent, but it's not as if we haven't seen this before in main events where the babyface comes back from injury and he tries to valiantly fight and persevere, and in the end, he ends up winning the match, right? We've seen this story told dozens, if not hundreds of times in wrestling before. But they had a competitive match. MJF was not as hurt as some people would lead you to believe that he was, the way he was wrestling in there. And in the end, he cheated. He cheated to win. We had a diamond ring that was involved. We had all kinds of shenanigans going on here. If you go back to Wembley Stadium at Allin, it was a very story-heavy main event between Adam Cole and MJF. This was a very story-driven main event. Not everybody is going to like the story that they told. Like I said, a lot of it didn't make any sense, and you have to check your brain at the door. I'm not making excuses for that. It was stupid. But I thought they had an excellent main event. It is a consistent pattern so far this year. When you look at MJF and the year he has had as the AEW World Champion, he's been champion all year long. And the matches that he has had with Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole and Kenny Omega and Jay White, all the people that he has set foot in the ring with and defended his title against Samoa Joe at Grand Slam, he has put together an excellent body of work this year in AEW title defenses. Tonight was no different. Even if you didn't like the story they told, to me, it does not take away from the work that we had in that main event. And the crowd was with him every step of the way. You know, these AEW events, these people, they're longer shows, but you look at what they gave you on this show. From the Texas death match to the 4-way ladder match. I mean, all of it. It's exhausting. And yet by the end of the night, the people were hanging on to every near fall. The people were with MJF every step of the way. They bought into the story. So it worked. It was a success. The other thing they did was they very heavily teased. They wanted you to believe that Adam Cole was going to turn on this SOB. And that he was going to be the devil. He was going to betray his best friend, right? There were so many little teases and so many little signs. But in the end, it didn't happen. They played it straight. Adam Cole did not get physically involved. He didn't take a bump. I think there were people who just assumed, okay, it's all a work. But no, he's really hurt, and he didn't take any bumps. But he very heavily factored into the story. But I will say, unless he is going to be revealed in the end as the devil, which look, it's a possibility. It is a possibility. If he's not, I'm not really sure why they needed him on this show. Unless he is going to factor into the story that is coming up. We have World's End coming up. One more pay-per-view left this year. I'm assuming that's where they're going to save the devil reveal. Nothing with the devil tonight. We didn't get any sort of devil tease. There was no cutaway to a video. There was no attack by the masked men. So if you were hoping for some kind of development in that story, you didn't get that on this show. But unless Cole is going to play a role in that, I'm not sure why he even needed to be here. They already had a story going into this pay-per-view where MJF was at a disadvantage. He had Samoa Joe helping him out on the pre-show, but he was outnumbered by all the members of Bullet Club Gold. How is he going to pull this off, right? How is he going to retain his title? I'm not sure they needed to do what they did, but that was the story they elected to tell. But that wasn't even, in my opinion, that is not even going to end up being the match of the night. The match of the night honors go to Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. They had a Texas death match on this show. And it was one of the most violent matches that I have ever seen. Now, there have been exploding barbed wire death matches and all kinds of crazy violent matches in Japan and Mexico and all places all over the world. You have matches with C4 bombs going off and fire and explosions. Fire is about the only thing this match did not have on this show, thank God. They had everything else. You wanted blood, you got plenty of blood. You wanted barbed wire, you got barbed wire. You wanted staple guns, you got that. You wanted cinder blocks, you want tables and chairs and everything else, you got it all. These guys beat the living shit out of each other. What I liked about it, and there was a lot that I didn't like as far as some of the violence and the blood stuff, which we'll get into, but remember the story. Hangman Page, his home was violated. His home was broken into by this man. He reacted in a way that you would expect somebody to react in a situation like that. He didn't walk in there tonight and adhere to the code of honor. He didn't wait for the bell to ring. He didn't have a collar and elbow tie-up. He went in there and he wanted to kill this fucking guy. These two went in there and had a fight. They had a violent, bloody brawl. But maybe the most surprising thing about it, and this was something I was pleasantly surprised by, I wasn't sure if Tony Khan would have the balls to do it. Swerve Strickland picks up the win. He goes 2-0 over Hangman Page. And that is how you sustain someone's momentum. The win at Wrestle Dream for him was huge. He got a win over a former AEW World Champion. You know what's more impressive than beating a former AEW World Champion on pay-per-view once? Beating that same person twice. And that's what he did on this show. And he has paved the way now, not only to have a big 2024, but we have this Continental Classic tournament that's kicking off on Dynamite this Wednesday. Swerve Strickland needs to be in that tournament. If he doesn't win the whole thing, he needs to be in there. He needs to have an impressive showing in that tournament. This needs to be a launching pad to bigger and better things for him as we head into 2024. This is only one part. This is only one piece of the puzzle. But it was a very important piece for him to go in there and pick up another win. Now, he had a little bit of help in doing it, just like he did in the first match. But a win is a win, and that was a huge win for Swerve Strickland on this show. We had two women's title changes. Both women's championships changed hands. Toni Storm, once again, the AEW Women's Champion. And Julia Hart, crowned as the new TBS champion, her first title win. here in AEW. And Will Ospreay, to the surprise of no one, rumored all week long, Will Ospreay was unveiled as the blockbuster new signing. He is officially All Elite, although as he explained, he still has some time left. He wants to finish up properly with New Japan, but on the road to Revolution in March, he will officially be All Elite. Huge pickup for Tony Khan. And I got a lot of feedback from people about the Will Ospreay stuff. Some people agree. Huge pickup, right? Best wrestler in the world. A lot of other people have a completely different opinion. They're entitled to be wrong. You cannot deny that Will Ospreay, if not the best, one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. And I don't want to hear stuff about, oh, he's not mainstream enough. Oh, not enough people know who he is. Oh, he's a flippy wrestler. Oh, he's an indie guy. You're going to hear a lot of that stuff. Tune it out, because it doesn't change the fact that he is a talent unlike very few that I have seen, especially in today's wrestling. Will Ospreay, being a part of the AEW roster, will only elevate the people that he is in the ring with. Will Ospreay will be one half of your main event next year at Wembley Stadium. Will Ospreay is a huge get for Tony Khan. That is a huge pickup, regardless of what people think, regardless of whether or not people think that he's, he's a mainstream performer or not, because I'll tell you something right now. If the pendulum had swung in the other direction and Will Ospreay decided, you know what, I'm going to go take my chances in WWE, and he made his debut at WrestleMania next year, these same people would be singing his praises. They'd be throwing this guy a ticker tape parade. They'd be first in line to want to shake the man's hand, to want to take his picture, to want his autograph. So fuck off with the disingenuous comments. All day long I heard this. You know damn well that if the shoe was on the other foot, their attitude would be very, very different. It has everything to do with the initials on the contract of the company that he works for. If the three initials were different, they would have a very different attitude about this story. But it's not. He joined AEW. AEW bad. Will Ospreay, boo, right? That's the narrative. Will Ospreay, huge get for Tony Khan. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this entire show. One other thing, by the way, and I've noticed this with the AEW pay-per-views, and it's a minor thing, but it's just something that's kind of annoying. You know, when WWE has a pay-per-view, obviously they have some kind of relationship with Twitter. They always have a hashtag, and it has some kind of little logo next to it, right? So it's easily identifiable. AEW never has that. There were a bunch of like Full Gear hashtags, some of them misspelled, some of them had AEW in it, some of them just said Full Gear. I had to go to their Twitter page to see what the official one was. How is it that Tony Khan can't get an official, hashtag on Twitter that has a logo next to it like everybody else does? WWE does, some of these other sports leagues do. You would think he could throw his weight around that he can get something like that. I don't know why it's so hard. Bizarre to me. Anyway, this is your Full Gear 2023 review. I am the Solomonster here. It is very late. I will try to get you through this as quickly as possible. We are going to do our best. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. You'll see them as you just saw there, popping up on your screen. There's some new ones as well that you will notice, including an AJ Styles one in the description down below. So you can go check that out if you would like to. And I have to give a shout out to a few people. Silver Tower, who was with us on the SmackDown stream last night, gifted 50 channel memberships. And he did it again earlier. So that is 100 channel memberships gifted in the last 24 hours by Silver Tower. So Silver Tower, I thank you, sir. Lady Fire Panda, thank you as well for the 5 gifted memberships. In case you couldn't tell, memberships are open. So have at it. Let's kick this back to the pre-show and start there. I think that's a good starting point for us here on this review. That's right. It is not that late for some of you. Some of you are on the West Coast. That's right. For some of you, it's still, what is it? 10:30, 9:30? I don't even know what time it is. Anyway, we'll start with the pre-show because there was some significant goings on the pre-show this time. 0 Hour kicked off with the Ring of Honor World Championship on the line. Eddie Kingston defending his title against Jay Lethal. They had a decent opener with the usual bullshit from Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt and Satnam. It's the same stuff you always see from this crew. A lot of fans were also still filing into the building. So if you were watching this match, you could see there were empty seats that suddenly were filled a few matches later. Kingston blocked a lethal injection into a Saito suplex, and he signaled for the spinning back fist, clobbered Sanjay Dutt instead when he climbed up on the apron. And Sanjay fell backwards into Jeff Jarrett on the floor. Lethal and Kingston collided with a double clothesline, and so they were down. But Karen Jarrett is outside the ring. And Karen Jarrett grabs the referee. Lethal and Kingston, they scramble for Jarrett's guitar. And they try to grab the guitar when Ortiz shows up. And Ortiz picks up the guitar, and he smashes it over Sanjay Dutt's head. Kingston again countered a lethal injection, this time with a half-and-half suplex. He followed that with the spinning back fist, and he retained his Ring of Honor World Championship. Now, I want to stay on Eddie Kingston here for a second, because later in the night, we learned that Mark Briscoe and Eddie Kingston will both be a part of this Continental Classic. If you missed the announcement, it is going to be their version effectively of a G1. AEW is hosting their own round-robin tournament. They're going to have 2 groups of 6, a total of 12. It kicks off on Dynamite this Wednesday. It's going to go all the way to World's End on December 30th, and that is where the finals will be held. So that's what we know about it so far. Kingston is in. Mark Briscoe is in. They join Bryan Danielson and Andrade El Idolo. So those are the first 4 men that have been announced. Kingston later did an interview backstage with Renee. And he announced during the pay-per-view, he said he wants to put both of his titles on the line. Not only is he the Ring of Honor World Champion, he's also the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion. He's got 2 titles. Now, what he wants to do is every single match that he has in this tournament, he wants his titles to be on the line. So he's going to be defending his titles in every match that he has. And the way these tournaments work is that whatever group you're in, everybody in the group will get to wrestle each other one time. So there's going to be a lot of Eddie Kingston matches in this tournament. If he loses his titles, what'll end up happening, and this is how he explained it here, what'll end up happening is whoever is the Ring of Honor champion and the New Japan Strong Openweight champion, whether it's him or somebody else, they will go on to the finals, and if they win the entire thing, they will become a Triple Crown champion because they'll have those 2 titles, and apparently the Continental Championship. This is, again, how he described it. That the winner of the tournament, because they had not told us what the prize is. You know, is there a prize for the winner? What does the winner of this tournament get? They haven't really articulated that yet. And according to him, they will win the Continental title. Now, my first thought when I hear this is, oh boy, just what this company needs, another title. My guess is, and this has not been confirmed, but my guess is, my hope, if that's what they're doing, it's more of an Owen Hart tournament type of situation where the winner will get a title. It's not an officially recognized title that's going to be defended week to week on TV. This will probably end up being an annual thing, and the winner will become the Continental Champion for that particular year. I think that's lame. I think that the winner should get a shot at the AEW World Championship. You had Tony Khan, when he made the announcement, say specifically that this tournament would have 12 of the top stars in All Elite Wrestling. So you're already letting people know you're going to have top talents in this tournament. There's no reason that they shouldn't be fighting for a shot at your top championship. And your top title is not the Continental title. Your top title is the one that MJF has. That should be what's at stake in this tournament. So I don't like that idea. If that's what this tournament is for, I think that's lame. But that's how they're working this. They're going to, I guess, pitch it as the first ever Triple Crown, modern day Triple Crown champion for whoever goes to the finals and wins the entire thing. But I sure as shit hope that they're not creating a brand new title.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther.
The last thing they need.
All hail Gunther.
Hey, Darth Bullsey, dropping a $50 super chat. Darth Bullsey, I salute you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the Gunther bomb. I'm going to be reading your message, and everybody else is here a little bit later on, so hang tight. Claudio Castagnoli against Buddy Matthews was match number 2 On the pre-show, they had the expected good match. I mean, what else would you expect from these two? You knew it was going to be good. Matthews took his jacket off, immediately threw it at Claudio, started laying in some stiff stomps in the corner. Twice, Claudio attempted a giant swing. Matthews avoided it both times. He could not avoid it, though, a third time. Matthews battled back. He hit a jackhammer-style move for a near fall before hooking in a crossface. Claudio had a cut on the right side of his head. He was bleeding a little bit. Not the only blood that we would have on this show tonight. And he powered Matthews up on his shoulders. He delivered a TKO. Claudio hit a power bomb before sinking in the sharpshooter. Matthews nearly got to the ropes. Claudio, though, dragged him back to the middle of the ring, and he forced him to submit. So Claudio picks up the win for the Blackpool Combat Club in this match. Now, when the match was over, Matthews got to his feet, and he slowly approached Claudio, and Claudio put his hand out. Matthews did not accept. He just walked right past Claudio. He shoulder bumped him as he walked away. Now, early in the match, it looked like Matthews may have pulled a muscle. I don't think he tore anything. It looked like maybe he pulled his hamstring or something, and he was sort of limping a little bit the rest of the way. But he was fine. I mean, it didn't affect his performance in the match. Again, they had a very good match. So if he did get hurt, again, it didn't hamper his performance any. And then we had the highlight of the pre-show, which was for the Ring of Honor tag team titles, MJF and Samoa Joe against the Guns. Now, you might be wondering, wait, I thought MJF didn't want to team up with Samoa Joe. He didn't want to accept his proposition. Samoa Joe offered to be his friend. He offered to watch his back and be his partner in exchange for one more shot at the AEW World title. And MJF has told him repeatedly, no, I'm not interested. Well, on Collision last night, I was watching SmackDown. That's why I reviewed that last night. But on Collision last night, Joe came to the aid of MJF at the end of the show. He was battling back against Bullet Club Gold, and he helped him out. He put his hand out, and MJF decided to accept. That's how they ended up as tag team partners tonight. So this was the first of two MJF matches on the show. He came out wearing the colors of the LA Lakers. He got the better of both Guns early on, and then he told Joe that he didn't need his help. Joe tagged into the match anyway. MJF was not happy. And Joe went wild here for a little bit. He had a big dive, elbow suicide through the ropes, taking out both Guns. He was having the time of his life. He had a big smile on his face. He was kicking both their asses. He was awesome here. And also, this is the first time I can remember seeing the nope spot that Joe does on something other than a dive or a crossbody off the top. One of the Guns went for a drop kick, and he just walked away. I don't know that I've seen him do that on a drop kick before. So that spot will never, ever get old with me. I pop every time I see Joe do it. Doesn't matter what company he's in. I don't think he ever did it in WWE. I don't remember, but obviously, he did that plenty years ago, and even to this very day, I love that spot. So the Guns got heat on MJF for a while. They isolated him until he finally got the hot tag to Joe. He ran wild. Joe put Austin Gunn on the top turnbuckle. He was setting up for the Muscle Buster when MJF tagged himself in, and he tried one of his own. He was going to try the Muscle Buster, but Colton ran in and drop kicked him, and that broke that up. So the Guns tried for the 310 to Yuma. MJF, though, caught them both with a double DDT. MJF teased the kangaroo kick, but Joe tagged himself in. That got boos. Joe and MJF, they talked for a little bit, then they nodded in approval. They each went to opposite corners. They were going to try for muscle busters on each member of the Guns. Both Guns slipped out. They shoved MJF and Joe into each other. The Guns hit the 310 to Yuma on Samoa Joe. Colton went for the pin, and the referee counted even though Colton's legs were clearly under the bottom rope. That didn't stop the referee from counting. MJF pulled him out of the ring to break things up. The Guns roughed up MJF on the floor. They sent him face first into the ring post. And then the Guns set up for their finish when Adam Cole's music hit. And out comes Adam Cole. He is on crutches, and he has his his left foot is in a walking boot. He has his Ring of Honor World Tag Team title around his waist. Joe took a distracted Austin Gunn, locked him in the coquina clutch from behind, and Austin tapped out. But the real story here is what took place after the match, when the match was over. MJF went to ringside. He hugged Adam Cole, right? He was so happy to see his best friend. MJF got back in the ring. He went face-to-face with Samoa Joe, who got up in his face, and he said something to him. Basically, remember our deal. Remember what you promised me. And they shook hands. And Joe left, because he knows he's got a world title match now in his back pocket. So MJF was playing to the crowd, and he knelt down in the corner to talk to Adam Cole, who was outside the ring. And while he was distracted with Adam Cole, he got attacked from behind by the Guns. So the Guns started beating up on MJF. Austin Gunn grabbed a chair from underneath the ring. Colton held MJF's leg, and Austin slammed a chair over it twice. They wrapped MJF's leg in one of the chairs, and Austin jumped from the middle rope onto MJF's leg. They smashed his leg. There was nothing Adam Cole could do but just watch. It's a one-legged man. He can't do anything. And MJF is laying on the ground, and he is writhing around in pain. So he did a stretcher job. They wheeled him out of the arena. In most companies, the world champion would not even allow himself to be placed on a stretcher. Can you imagine Stone Cold Steve Austin getting his leg smashed and allowing these fuckers to put him on a gurney and carry him out of the building? He'd beat every one of them up, and he would limp to the back. But MJF is loaded up onto the gurney. They carry him to the ambulance, and he starts shouting for Adam. He wants to know where Adam is. So Adam Cole shows up. And MJF is begging him, don't let them take my championship. Please, don't let them take my title. And Cole promises that he wouldn't let that happen. And they closed the door, and the ambulance drove off. And we were left with Adam Cole standing there with a look on his face. Like, what am I going to do here? Right? Like, he had to now figure out what he was going to do to try to preserve MJF's championship before they took it away from him. Hey, Silver Tower just showed up again.
Too sweet to be sour.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
Silver Tower.
Silver Tower. I took a look over at the side here, and I just see name after name after name, and I go, he did it again. Son of a bitch, he did it again. 50 memberships gifted by Silver Tower. Everybody, Santa Silver Tower has come early this year. It's only November, right? We're not even at Christmas yet. Santa showed up early. This is incredible. Amazing. Silver Tower, thank you. I thought it was an effective hook going into the pay-per-view. I didn't know where this was going to end up going, so before I realized what this was going to be, I thought it was a very effective way to keep people interested in what they were going to do. Like, how is this going to develop now? We had a promised main event. It looks like the main event now is in jeopardy. We have Adam Cole, who's in no condition to perform. And MJF just made him swear, don't let them take my title away from me. What is this guy going to do? That should be the point of a pre-show. The point of a pre-show should be to get you interested in buying the pay-per-view, right? With WWE, it's not as much of an issue anymore. They have pre-shows every month, but everything's on Peacock. Everything's free. With AEW, they're running traditional pay-per-views, right? I had to pay $50 for this pay-per-view. Not everybody is willing to plunk down $50, even though AEW doesn't have pay-per-views every single month yet. I'll bet you they will next year. But even still, right? Not everybody has the ability to say, yeah, sure, I'll plunk down $50 or $60 or whatever it may be on an AEW pay-per-view. They need to come up with a way to hook you in and reel you in. So I thought that was an effective way to try to do that. And again, it also cast some doubt on the main event because they kept Jay White very strong going into this show. You could argue maybe even a little too strong, to the point where people thought, this is kind of predictable, right? He's not going to win. He's been walking around with this title already for a month. He pinned MJF on television. He's not going to go in there and do it again. Now it's like, all right, well, I don't know where this is going to be going. The main show opened with a nice narrated video package. Kind of reminded me of some of those old WWE pay-per-views. We don't usually get intros like this for every AEW show, so I thought this was nice. The opener was Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. If I had to rank what I think the best matches were on this show, I think the order I would go in would be the Texas Death Match, the main event, and this match. This was one of the best matches on the entire show. This was a lot of fun. We had a children's choir performing Christian's song on stage before they actually started playing Christian's theme music. I will tell you, I was wondering if they were a choir of orphans. I thought there was going to be some kind of a punchline here to having all these kids doing Christian's entrance, and then they never said anything. I don't know if they were all orphans or not, but out comes Christian with Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne. The babyface team, actually before the babyface team came out, Ric Flair came out because Ric Flair said he's going to be hitching his wagon to Sting. He's going to be riding Sting's coattails from now until his retirement. So he was going to be in their corner. So he came out first. Then Copeland's music hit. He, Sting, and Darby, they all came out together. They went to different sides of the stage. Copeland had half his face painted just like Sting. You know, he's got to be marking out. He said one of the cool things for him in joining AEW was having the ability to work with Sting because he never had the chance to before. And this is it. So if he ever wanted to work with Sting, he's not going to have very many other chances to do it. So he looked like he was out there having fun. Honestly, it's the same thing when CM Punk was still there. And there was at least one match I remember they did on TV. I want to say it was Punk, Sting, and Darby. And it might have been against MJF. Was it MJF and FTR possibly? It might have been. Because I remember CM Punk did the same thing. He painted his face up. He had a big smile on his face. He looked like he was marking out. So, yeah, I mean, it was cool to see him out there having fun like that. And the crowd continued to sing Copeland's theme music even after they turned it off. So I'm sure we'll be hearing from Jericho soon that he invented that. So Christian Cage had a very fatherly moment early on with Nick Wayne. He was counseling him, his son, in the corner, his adopted son. Darby got the better of Nick Wayne here to start things out, and then he tagged in Sting. And Sting ran Nick Wayne out to the floor, and then he ran him into the barricade. So hard that Wayne almost took a bump over the barricade. But he slid down and landed on his head. Tossed him back inside. Wayne quickly tagged Christian into the match. Now we had Sting and Christian. It was TNA Revisited. And Sting looked over at his corner. He pointed to Copeland. The people wanted it. He made the tag, and so now we had Edge and Christian. And I knew exactly what was about to happen. I was waiting for it. And they're building it, right? They're teasing it, and they're building it. And then the first chance he gets, Christian tags out. Despite all the holy shit chants and people wanting to see it, he immediately tags out to avoid facing him, and everybody boos. Because Christian knows what he's doing, man. Christian's fucking great. So Copeland ran into the clutches of the dinosaur, but countered a chokeslam into a neck breaker. Darby tagged in. He got choked. Now, this here was ridiculous. We're going to talk about a lot of ridiculous stuff in that Texas death match. This spot right here, like, it physically hurt to watch. I usually don't feel that way except when I'm watching Darby Allin matches. Luchasaurus grabs Darby Allin, and he delivers a chokeslam over the top rope, not even onto the apron, but onto the edge of the ring. So he smashes into the edge of the ring, takes this ridiculous bump out to the floor. It looks like he's just been destroyed. Ric Flair is standing there looking, probably in his head thinking, fucking guy. Copeland comes over to check on him. Tony Schiavone is just disgusted by what he just saw. I'm just like, fucking hell. I mean, just brutal. And you had Tony Schiavone on commentary. Schiavone mentioned that Darby is supposed to be catching a red-eye flight tonight to climb. Now, I thought he said to climb Mount Everest. Now, I was of the impression, and this is what Darby himself has said, that Darby was supposed to be going to these different countries, Switzerland, maybe China, to do training. And then in April, he would be doing the actual climb. Now, there are professional climbers. There are people who it will take years for them to practice and for them to train to go up on Mount Everest, a place where there are literally bodies littered at the top of the mountain and all over the mountain, people who went up and didn't come down. So it takes years. This guy was going to train for a few months and then climb. He made it sound like he's climbing this week. So I would love to know, I mean, did he misspeak? Or did something change? I assume he meant that he had training for the mountain climb. But if he's actually climbing Mount Everest now, I mean, he's out of his fucking mind. I don't know. He's out of his mind, let alone taking a bump like this in a match and then taking a red eye out to go climb. Honestly, I'm not sure that climbing Everest is any more or less dangerous than just him getting in the ring and having a match at this point. Cage picked up the pieces. He kept Darby isolated in the heel corner. And Nick Wayne wanted a superplex. Darby, though, bit his hand, and he executed an avalanche code red. Christian snuck under the ring. Now, I told you before, Christian's awesome. So here's another moment where Christian truly is awesome. I didn't even notice that he had climbed down. He went under the ring. And he came out on the other side of the ring on the babyface side. And he pulled Copeland down from the apron. And he ran him into the ring post. And the announcers flipped out about, he climbed, he crawled under the ring to the other side. So he shoves him into the ring post. Again, gets booed out of the building. Luchasaurus mows down Sting. And now Darby has nobody to tag, right? Because he's dying in there. He's looking to make the tag. Sting's not there. Copeland's not there. Copeland, though, eventually does come back. And he did make the hot tag. And yet again, Christian bailed. So he hit Luchasaurus with an impaler. He rolled out to the floor. Then he pressed Nick Wayne over his head and out of the ring onto the dinosaur. Oh my goodness, it's Cody Rhodes. Oh, here it comes. Cody and his pyro. Oh my goodness. ABK dropping the Cody pyro bomb.
It's ABK. Always be killing it.
Always. He's always killing it. And if you're listening on your headphones or your AirPods, he's probably killing your hearing too whenever the pyro goes off. So don't blame me. You could thank ABK for that. Hey, ABK, man, you're awesome. Thank you, sir. ABK dropping a, I didn't even see what it was for, a $411 super chat there for ABK deserves a yes chant. I will interrupt with a yes chant for that $400 bomb. No, he's not Batman. He's Bruce Wayne. That's what he is. ABK, I love you, brother. Thank you very much. Luchasaurus is outside the ring. He catches Nick Wayne when Nick Wayne gets dumped outside the ring. He catches him. Darby Allin hits the ropes. He does his just ridiculous suicide dive. Out, knocks them both down. Sting wants to get in on the action. Now, thankfully for Sting, there was no ladder for him to climb. There was no balcony for him to climb. All he was going to do was just do a little dive off the apron onto the heels. Ric Flair is on the floor, though, standing there in his way. And they cut to a kind of a close-up shot of Sting, and you could see Sting go, "Rick, get out of the way." And Flair either didn't hear him, or he had his back turned and he just wasn't paying attention. So Sting just decided to jump over Flair. Because Flair was in the way, he jumped over him, and he took down the heels on the floor. So back in the ring, Sting and Copeland, they are hammering Luchasaurus. They hit a Scorpion Death elbow drop combo. Then we got some triple team offense. We had a delayed vertical suplex in the ring with Sting and Copeland holding up, I believe it was Nick Wayne. and Darby Allin jumped off the top rope for a crossbody and took him down. Now we go to the outside. And outside the ring, we have Ric Flair, because I was waiting for it. The moment that Ric Flair came out for this match, you knew that Ric Flair was going to get physical. You knew that Ric Flair was going to take a bump. And so this should come as no surprise to you that Ric Flair decided to take his jacket off. He saw Christian Cage coming. I think he called him a motherfucker or something. The camera picked up on it. He took his jacket off, and Christian's coming towards him. He's coming towards Christian. And Cage shoved him. Gave him a little shove. So Flair starts to deliver some shots to Christian Cage. Poor ones. They weren't very good, but he's delivering shots, not of the alcoholic kind. In response to this, Christian Cage, as you can see here from the visual aid, Christian Cage hits a low blow. And there you see poor Ric Flair. He won't be siring any more children, thank goodness. He didn't just hit a low blow. He got elbow deep in this man, like he was checking him for tumors. So that took care of Ric Flair. As the referee went to go tend to Flair, Christian grabbed the TNT title. But he went and he clocked Luchasaurus by mistake. And that caused Christian to run out of the building when Copeland started chasing after him. Copeland stopped short of jumping over the barricade to go after him. He just was like, all right, this guy's gone. But Christian just kept going. So Christian ran out of the building. He left his team to die. Copeland hit a spear on Luchasaurus, and Darby followed with a coffin drop for the win. I'm telling you, man, you saw that elbow deep. He could have at least put a glove on before he went up there. So when the match was over, Sting left the ring and he went behind the announcers in the front row. I didn't even know who it was. They had not yet identified that it was his son. I just took one look at this kid's face and I could say, oh, that's his son. He looked just like him, only without the makeup on. So he went over to go hug his son in the front row. And Darby got on the microphone. He dropped a few F-bombs and telling the crowd to give it up for Sting because this is the last time Sting is wrestling in California. This is it. This is the Sting retirement tour that he's on right now. And he said in California, this is it. So everybody gave him a very well-deserved standing ovation. And he soaked up the adulation from the crowd. It was a very nice moment. I thought that this was an excellent opener. A lot of fun. They kept Christian and Copeland apart enough to hopefully make you want to see the two of them go one-on-one. They're saving it for the eventual singles match, which is exactly what they should have done and what I expected them to do. But Christian, Christian is such a great douchebag heel. And Sting looked great, for what he was in there doing and what they used him for very selectively. I thought he looked great. And again, you knew Flair was going to get physical. My hope is that that's the extent of it. That is the extent to which I care to see Ric Flair getting physical on this show. If Christian is going to beat him up and leave him laying, that's okay with me. Beyond that, I really don't have any interest or appetite to see anything more than that. Now, in the following segment, we got a big development on the main event because Tony Schiavone was on stage with referee Bryce Remsburg with an update on the World Championship situation. And Schiavone introduced Jay White, who walked out. He had MJF's title, and he was shouting for them to proclaim him the champion because I guess the agreement he had with Tony Khan is that he gets his title shot on this show. And if anything happens, he's going to be crowned the new world champion. Like, this is it. He's getting his shot no matter what. So he wants to be crowned the new world champion. And Schiavone tells him to, calm down. And he's about to announce that the main event is canceled because, unfortunately, MJF is unable to compete. But before he can make the announcement that the main event is officially canceled, Adam Cole's music hits, and he walks out on stage, and he said he made a promise to his best friend that he would not let them take his championship away from him. He said, tonight, it is going to be him wrestling in place of MJF in the main event, one-on-one with Jay White, even if it had to be on one leg. And Jay White was very happy to see him. He pointed out that He was actually wearing the same tights that he was wearing the last time they were in the ring together in that four-way at the first Forbidden Door show last year when Adam Cole got hurt at the hands of Jay White. He suffered that concussion that almost ended his career and kept him out for months and months. And Jay White was more than happy to point that out here in this promo. He said he'll do it again. And so this is where things went off the rails with this story. I thought it was very intriguing, them doing the angle they did at the end of the pre-show, and then they said, okay, Adam Cole is going to take the place of MJF in the main event. And I thought to myself, let's see if we can figure out the logic behind this. Somebody has stepped up and agreed to take MJF's place in the main event. Just so happens that that person just went under the knife and had major surgery for a broken ankle. He is in a walking boot, fresh off of surgery, and is on one leg. And it's okay for him to wrestle Jay White in the main event, but your world champion who has a leg injury that's probably not as severe as the one that this guy has, well, he can't wrestle. He's not cleared. He's not cleared or able to compete. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Why? You know why it doesn't make sense? Because it's fucking stupid. That's why. It's stupid. You really have to turn your brain off to justify that. So that was very dumb. There's really no excuse. I'm not making any excuses for that. That was fucking stupid. We had Jon Moxley one-on-one with Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. An audible of an audible. I'll tell you what, the AEW medical team needs to be completely blown up. They have to just blow the whole thing up and start over again. I'm glad I don't work for that company if that's their medical staff. I'll take my chances somewhere else. Moxley and Orange Cassidy. This is a rematch from the main event at All Out back at the beginning of September, Labor Day weekend. Cassidy went right at Moxley, who just threw Cassidy to the floor, and he threw him onto the announce desk. And he was relentless. He was having his way with this guy. He was beating him up. And back inside, he dropped Cassidy with a suplex. He was daring him to fight back. Cassidy tried waking himself up, but he ran into a black hole slam for a 2 count. Moxley raked the back. He was biting at the nose. Cassidy returned the favor and did the same to him. And then he hit about 10 straight headbutts, which busted Moxley open before delivering a superplex and then a diving DDT off the top. Then came a tilt-a-whirl DDT that only got a 1 count. Cassidy couldn't believe it. You know what I couldn't believe? That Jon Moxley actually was bleeding on this show. This is my shocked face. Again, not the last time we'd be seeing blood on this show. Even Jon Moxley was very jealous of what was to come later in the show. I said on Twitter, I said he was watching that Texas death match, doing his best Dolph Ziggler, saying, it should have been me. So he had Cassidy flipping off Moxley, hit a dive to the floor, sent Moxley crashing into the announce desk. And the crowd was chanting for a third. He did a second one. They wanted a third one. So he hit an elbow suicida. Moxley fought back with the anvil elbows. He applied a bulldog choke. Cassidy escaped. And he locked in the red rum. He's been hanging out with Hook. So he's using Hook's move. Moxley fell into the corner. He ripped the turnbuckle pad off before dropping Cassidy with a cutter and a Gotch-style pile driver for 2. We got the little kicks from Moxley. Usually it's Cassidy doling out the little kicks. This time it was Jon Moxley giving him some of his own. And that woke him up. He sidestepped the charge. Moxley ran into the exposed buckle. Cassidy hit 3 orange punches, and Moxley finally went down. Only briefly, though, and then Cassidy unloaded 3 more orange punches, followed by beach break, and he finally got the pin. And when the match was over, Claudio and Wheeler Yuta, they came out to help Moxley. Yuta and Hook got into it briefly. Apparently, Yuta bumped Hook, and so they were going back and forth. This was not as good as their match at All Out. It was still a good match. It was good, but this was not as good as the main event that they had at All Out. Um, but the story here is that Orange Cassidy was finally able to do the one thing that he has not been able to do, which is beat Jon Moxley. He beat a former AEW World Champion that he wasn't able to before. And now they're one win apiece. They could do a rubber match between these two. I don't think you need to wait until World's End if you're going to do it. They have Winter is Coming next month. They could always do it there in mid-December. But it was the right outcome. Jon Moxley does not need the international title. He didn't need it all out when he won it. He doesn't need it. And frankly, Orange Cassidy doesn't need it either. But at least if Orange Cassidy has it, he can drop it to somebody like Jay White or Konosuke Takeshita. That's where the title should be going. And it makes more sense to win it off of a babyface than it would to win it off of Moxley. I don't even know what Moxley is anymore. Is he a babyface? Is he a heel? Is he a tweener? I mean, what is he supposed to be? So it made sense, but hopefully before long they will transition that title onto somebody else. Because frankly, neither of these guys need that championship. Speaking of championships, we had timeless Toni Storm. One of my favorite parts of AEW television now is timeless Toni Storm. And she went one-on-one with Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World title. Before the match, Luther, what would you even call him? He's not really a bodyguard, right? I don't know. We got to come up with a word for it. Her assistant, I guess, right? All right, we'll call him the assistant. Luther presented Toni with a script, and she had it with her in the ring, and then she took the script and she tore it up like Vince McMahon an hour before showtime. So her chest was beat. I mean, I was looking at her chest because her chest was beat red from the match that she had 24 hours earlier on television. She had a match. Was it Rampage or I think it was Collision? It was Collision with Emi Sakura. Maybe it was Rampage. I don't know. Anyway, Shida trapped Storm between the ropes, and she was just chopping the hell out of her. And they cut backstage during the match, and they showed Mariah May, the newest addition to the women's division. She was watching, terrified as she watched Toni taking all these chops. Shida connected on a running high knee, 10 corner punches, and then a missile drop kick for a 2 count. Shida took too long to follow up, and then Toni chucked Shida off the ropes before going over to consult with Luther. He's the butler. One person says the chaperone, somebody else says he's a butler. Okay, well, we'll call him the butler. How about that? Luther the butler. So she went over to consult with him, and when she did, he placed a shoe in the back of her trunks. Now, Aubrey Edwards saw the other shoe. She had a shoe in her hand as well. And she went to go use it as a weapon. Aubrey Edwards sees the shoe, and she takes the shoe away from Toni Storm. When Aubrey goes to dispose of the shoe, Toni pulled the second shoe out of her ass, and she decked Shida with it. And she went for the pin. She got a very close near fall. Storm Zero followed. Actually, Storm Zero got countered into a Storm Zero by Shida. She used Toni's own move against her. She hit the question mark kick, Falcon Arrow, and Shida only got a 2 count out of it. That's right. Watch for the shoe. Don't make the same mistake that I made the other night. I said, watch for the tits. Remember, she goes, chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe. And for some reason, I got my lines crossed and I thought it was watch for the tits. I guess that's what I was doing at the beginning of this match. But I swear it was only because she had these red marks all over her chest. Dig the hole deeper, right? Dig the hole deeper. Shida missed the Meteora and came up short, clutching her leg, and Storm rolled through another Falcon Arrow attempt into an ankle lock. And she ripped the shoe off of Shida, who hit Storm with a forearm, and the shoe went flying, and I think it almost hit Taz. Shida grabbed the kendo stick outside the ring. She went to go use it when Luther came over to stop her from doing so. He took it away from her. That resulted in Shida kicking Luther in the balls. So we had back-to-back. What's with all the ball kicking here? We had Christian Cage with Ric Flair. We had this spot here. There were more low blows coming later in the show. There's got to be a low blow limit on these shows, or maybe just an all-out moratorium. Maybe we need a moratorium on low blows. Gave him a low blow, and then she started laying in kendo stick shots on Luther. Meanwhile, Toni Storm grabbed a small metal tray that Luther had brought down to the ring with. I don't know. Is it supposed to be like an ashtray? Is that what it's? Because back then everybody smoked. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be. It's like a little metal plate. She grabs the metal tray and she hid the tray in her trunks. Boy, she puts a lot of stuff down there. Remember a few weeks ago on Collision, she took a couple of, was it peaches, I think it was? No, it was oranges. That's what it was. She had at least one orange that she put in her pants. And then she laid on the announce desk right in front of Tony Schiavone, and she reached in and she pulled it out and she handed it to him. And I made the comment, I said, that's going to end up on eBay. Somebody's going to sell that on eBay for $1,000. You watch. So anyway, she stuffed it down in her trunks. But the thing is, you could plainly see, if you look, now again, they got a shot of her ass, and you could clearly see that the metal tray, through the fishnets, you can see that she had a metal tray in her ass, okay? So we could see this. Now, she hits a stalling German suplex. Shida ends up in the corner. So you know the hip attack is coming, right? You could see where this is headed. So she goes to the opposite corner, and she readjusts where the weapon is in her trunks. And she goes in for the sweet cheek music in the opposite corner, and she knocks out Shida. Because she's got a metal plate in her ass. So she knocks her out, and she covers her, and she wins the AEW Women's World Championship for a third time. I don't know how we are supposed to believe that Aubrey Edwards could not see this metal tray in this woman's ass. But it's hardly the first time that the referees in AEW were made to look like idiots. Mariah May walked out. Well, the screen went black and white, first of all. As Toni was celebrating her big win, she was shocked. She couldn't believe it, right? It's like she won the Oscar. And Mariah May comes out. She's got flowers. And the crowd is cheering for Toni. She's skipping around with the women's title. Nigel McGuinness on commentary is almost in tears. Nigel was awesome, by the way, throughout the entire show. But Nigel is nearly moved to tears by this. And look, I cannot argue with the outcome. I honestly don't even think she needed the title right now, but I can't argue with the outcome because Toni Storm is the best thing about the women's division right now. She's one of the hottest acts in the entire company. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. I do feel bad for Shida. She has not had a lot of luck recently with some of her recent runs as champion as far as the length of those runs. I think this one was a little over a month. But look, you go with your hot hand. And right now, the hot hand is not Hikaru Shida. The hot hand is Toni Storm. And now, when Jamie Hayter returns, which should be in the next few months, maybe we can get a rematch between Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. Right? They had an excellent match at Full Gear last year. I'd like to see them run that back again. We had a 4-way ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team titles, with Ricky Starks and Big Bill defending against FTR, Malachi Black and Brody King, and Roosh and Dralistico. Now, I expected crazy shit from these four, even before they added the stipulation that the ladders were going to be involved. I was expecting crazy stuff from these teams. And so you can imagine that it was even crazier than expected. Now, it took a little while for this to get going, but it really picked up in the second half of the match, and it was filled with all sorts of insanity that I won't even begin to recap all of it. But there was an early tease of a confrontation between Big Bill and Brody King, but that's all it was. It was just a tease. It got quickly broken up. Second time, though, they finally came together and they slugged it out. Both men did not notice Dax Harwood and Roosh, who sandwiched them with ladders. Harwood put a ladder over his head and took out everybody that moved. There was a ridiculous spot where Cash Wheeler hit a low blow. There it is again. Another low blow. You know, if I were the AEW roster, I would start wearing a cup. I hope they're wearing some sort of protection down there because this is becoming an epidemic in this company. So Wheeler hits a low blow to Malachi Black and a pile driver from the second rope onto a ladder. I don't think it was a ladder bridge. I believe it was sort of leaned up in the corner, up against the turnbuckles. And from the middle rope, he came off and gave him a pile driver on the ladder. Brody King tried to dive to the floor on Big Bill. Bill met him with a ladder to the face, and that busted open Brody King, bleeding down the face. Ricky ran wild with some spears and a tornado DDT before he did his rope walk, and he took out both members of FTR. Roosh sandwiched Big Bill in the corner with a ladder, and he hit the bull's horns. Roosh took a little too long, though, and everybody set up ladders. They climbed. Brody King was laying everybody out except Dralistico, who planted Malachi with a poison rana. And in the high spot of the match, this was either the best thing in the match or the worst thing in the match, depending on how you perceive these things. I think a little bit of both. There was a ladder bridge outside the ring. And Brody King took Dralistico and he hit a gonzo bomb on the ladder, which did not break. And both men tumbled to the floor. A gonzo bomb on the ladder. Ridiculous. Moments later, Brody King is draped over the ladder and Cash Wheeler goes up top. But instead of trying to get the belts, win the belts back, because it's a ladder match, you got to pull down the belts to win the match. No, he opts to go to the top rope. And he delivers a dive from the top, a diving splash onto the ladder, which again does not break. And both men fall to the floor. For the finish, Ricky was up on the ladder in the ring. He was fighting for the titles with Wheeler. And Starks decked him with one of the belts. He swung it forward and smacked him right in the face with it. And that knocked Wheeler backwards off the ladder. Starks then pulled down both belts to retain. So Big Bill and Ricky Starks are still your AEW Tag Team Champions. They all busted their ass. There was a lot of craziness and a lot of insanity in this match. Again, some of the spots were a little too ridiculous and just dangerous and unnecessary, but they're always looking for new ways to pop people and try to do things that haven't been done before. And the problem when you do that is you keep escalating the risks. And at some point, you know, things go wrong. Hopefully nobody got too seriously banged up here, but this was very good. As far as the typical car crash ladder match, I thought it was very good. And, you know, good for Ricky and Bill. You know, they're getting a little bit of a push now. They have been champions for a little while, and they win here. Now they're going to be defending their titles soon against Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, so we'll see how that goes. But we had another women's title match, the second one of the night, which was for the TBS title. It was Kris Statlander defending her title against Julia Hart and Skye Blue. This was the better of the two matches. Like, as a match, this was the better of the two matches. And I liked the other one, too. This one, though, was really good. And the best match yet for Julia Hart and Skye Blue that I have seen them in their time in AEW. This was it right here. Julia hit Skye Blue with her top rope moonsault. She had her beat. Statlander pulled Julia off, pulled her to the floor. And Julia charged Statlander, who power slammed her on the floor. Skye Blue caught Statlander with a kick to the face. Back in the ring, Skye Blue went for a running crossbody block, but Statlander caught her, and Skye Blue escaped a Saturday Night Fever attempt. She rolled the champion into a pin for a 2 count. Skye Blue came right back with a great-looking code blue for a near fall. Blue went for her finish again, but Julia broke it up, and Hart put Blue in her Heartless Lock, her submission. Statlander pulled Hart off, gave her a deadlift German suplex, and then a deadlift German for Skye Blue. And then right back to Julia with another deadlift German, and right back to Skye Blue with another one. And everybody in the building applauded. Everybody popped huge for Kris Statlander and her power spots. That got a big ovation. That even got a human suplex machine reference from Excalibur, which got a rise out of Taz. Statlander hit the Saturday Night Fever on Skye Blue, went for the pin. Julia, though, knocked Statlander off of Blue and stole the pin to win the TBS championship. These ladies were in a very tough spot because they had to follow the ladder match. And anytime you follow the insanity of a ladder match, it's not an easy thing to do, male or female. But especially you take a match like that, the TBS title and this little story they've been doing with these three women has not been the focal point of the show. So, for some people, maybe it was the match to get up and go get food or go to the bathroom or something, right? Some people are just not going to be into this. But I thought that they actually over-delivered considering the spot that they were in. It could not have been easy for them to go out there and be able to get a reaction out of the people and hold their interest, but I thought they did a very good job of that. This was a very good match. Biggest win for Julia Hart in her career, and I'm happy for her. She has noticeably improved over the past year. I've commented on it every time I see her in the ring. And not even just in the ring, like her presentation. I like her music when she comes out. I mean, it's like night and day compared to what she was doing a year ago. So good for her. She's earned this. She's earned the right to have a run now with this title. Tony Schiavone was in the ring next to introduce us to AEW's newest blockbuster signing, and it was, in fact, Will Ospreay, who came out to a big ovation, got in the ring. He officially signed his AEW contract. Schiavone asked him how it felt. Ospreay said it felt good. He said that he was happy to be part of the team, but he said he had to get some bad news out of the way first. He said he wasn't coming in just yet. He joined New Japan Pro Wrestling when he was only 22 years old. He is now 30 years old. And he begged the fans to just let him finish up there first. Once he finishes up there, because the belief, and I think he's come out and said, his contract with them was to have run through February. So he'll be there probably through at least most of January, if not into the beginning of February. So he said, let me finish up there first. Then he'll be on the road to Revolution, and I'm all yours. And Ospreay looked into the camera. He told Tony Khan to line up the best that he has, especially for Wembley Stadium. And Ospreay said that he was about to show what All Elite truly looks like. Now, AEW and New Japan, for the people wondering, I thought he was under contract. I don't know what's so difficult to understand about this. AEW and New Japan are business partners. They have a working relationship with each other. They have a talent exchange, right? They've been working together for a while now. It is not out of the realm of belief that New Japan would be willing to let Will Ospreay, if he wants to sign a deal with AEW, to sign a deal with AEW as long as he fulfills his remaining commitments. Wrestle Kingdom, anything else that they want him to do for what would have been the remainder of his contract. Clearly, they reached an agreement. What's so hard to understand about this? There were so many people who were like, it can't be him. Like, how is that possible? He's under contract. Yeah, but they work together. New Japan can do whatever they want. They can let him out of his deal tomorrow if they want. They have, all it is a phone call to Tony Khan. Clearly, they worked something out. It's really not that hard to believe. And so now Will Ospreay is All Elite. And he's going to finish up. He's got a triple threat match for Wrestle Kingdom. So on January 4th, he's got that United Kingdom title. He's going to be defending it in a three-way against Jon Moxley and David Finlay. And David Finlay is clearly going to be going over, most likely going to be going over there. I mean, I guess they could surprise people and have Ospreay win and then drop it a few weeks later just to kind of throw people off. But David Finlay is going to win. David Finlay is the only one now in that match who is still really a New Japan guy. Right? He's the one they have to try to really build up. So Ospreay at least has to get through Wrestle Kingdom. As far as my thoughts on the signing, it's a no-brainer. If Will Ospreay wants to sign with you, unless he has some kind of outrageous demand, you pick up Will Ospreay because he would have been, if he would have hit the free agent market, he would have been the hottest free agent in the business. If you don't think WWE wouldn't have had an interest in him, you're out of your fucking mind. And this is what I mean about all the people who don't deal in good faith. I'm not saying you need to be a fan of Will Ospreay, you need to love his work, or that you have to believe he's going to be the biggest star in the world. I'm not even saying any of that is true. Right? Me personally, I don't care whether or not Tony Khan's big blockbuster signing is a mainstream name, because you know why? There are very few, if any, truly mainstream names left in wrestling. Who's mainstream? Goldberg? Is that what Tony Khan needs? Bill fucking Goldberg? He already signed Ric Flair, right? Isn't Ric Flair mainstream? Not always for the right reasons. What does that have to do with anything? Why does every signing have to be mainstream? Or is it only a Tony Khan thing? When he goes on Twitter and builds up a new signing, it's Tony Khan signings that have to go, they're not mainstream enough. No, it goes back to the whole idea of the tribalism and the WWE fans and the AEW fans. If Will Ospreay came out and said that he was going to go sign with WWE and he was going to move to the States, every WWE fan would be posting memes all over social media, making fun of the AEW fans. Oh, we got him now, right? Welcome to the Fed, right? They would welcome him with open arms. But because he went to AEW, oh, well, you know, he's not going to move the needle and nobody knows who he is and he's a flippy guy and all this other nonsense. You know, it's just ridiculous. Like, these people are not bright people. They're not intelligent people. They're using bullshit arguments that don't make any sense. I'm looking at this as a wrestling fan and saying that Will Ospreay is a tremendous professional wrestler, and I'm glad that he's going to be joining AEW. I'm glad that I'm going to have a chance to see him on television, hopefully every single week. I'm glad that we're going to be able to get him in the ring with more people on the AEW roster that he hasn't already worked with. I would love to see him in the ring with Bryan Danielson. In fact, who knows? That could be your main event in Wembley Stadium next year. I think Will Ospreay and MJF could very well be your Wembley Stadium main event. But you could put him in there with MJF. You could put him in there with Bryan Danielson. You could put him in there with Kenny Omega. One more Kenny Omega match. Any of those matches. You could headline Wembley Stadium next year. You can build an entire story around Ospreay trying to get into the main event at Wembley. He dropped Wembley. He name-dropped Wembley in his promo. Clearly, that's the direction that it's going in. But every time this guy is in the ring, I mean, he's doing things that just should not be humanly possible. And I'm not just talking, it's just flashy spots. He has really upped his game. He's changed his physical appearance. You look at Will Ospreay now compared to a few years ago, he's bulked up a little bit. He's actually slowed down in some ways, which sounds kind of weird to say about Will Ospreay. I think he's working smarter now than he used to, but he's a tremendous asset for AEW to have on the roster. Is he a needle mover? No. On his own, he is not a needle mover. The problem is there really aren't any needle movers. Unless you have somebody like John Cena or The Rock who suddenly joined the AEW roster, there's no such thing. Tony Khan has to try to create his own. And I don't know if Will Ospreay can one day be that for him, where he's actually moving tickets and he's popping ratings and he's doing all these amazing things business-wise. But what I do know is that Tony Khan is trying to assemble the best possible roster that he can. And if the best wrestler in the world, bell to bell, becomes available, you would be insane not to make him an offer to bring him into your company. And don't think that Triple H would not have wanted to get his hands on Will Ospreay. He would have done it in a heartbeat. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is a huge pickup for AEW. Not because it's a game changer, but because it's going to make AEW better. Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. They had themselves a Texas death match on their show. No pinfalls, no submissions. The only way to win is by your opponent failing to get back to their feet before the count of 10. Somebody said Brock Lesnar. Snow Dog said Brock Lesnar would be a needle mover for AEW. Really? For the 3 times a year he would show up? Brock would be a needle mover. I just don't think he would be, willing to show up enough to really move the needle enough to justify the price tag that Tony Khan would have to incur to bring him in. But yeah, Brock Lesnar is an example of somebody who would be a needle mover. Sure, he's a mainstream guy. People know who he is. Not just from his wrestling work. But again, he's not getting Brock Lesnar. He's not getting Brock Lesnar. He's not getting, again, The Rock or anybody like that. So again, when people use the word mainstream, it's like, well, who are you expecting? Like, were people really hoping to see Goldberg be the guy or Ronda Rousey walk out there tonight? You think either one of them are going to move the needle? Guess what? Neither one of them are going to move the needle either. So is he just not supposed to sign anybody ever again? Look, I agree. He's already got a ton of people on the roster. But again, somebody like this becomes available, you make an exception. Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. How do I even begin to review this? Hangman came in undefeated in Texas death matches in AEW. He was 3-0. And these two went in there and they put the death in deathmatch, is what these two did. Holy shit. This was disgusting. Prince Nana had 4 backup dancers with him when he came out for Swerve's entrance, and they're doing the dance on stage as Swerve comes out. Page didn't even wait for them to play his music. He came down to the ring, he just went right for Swerve, and I love that. I love that because that's exactly the way that he should react in a situation like this. You have a guy here, like when you have a grudge match like this, okay? And Swerve made this personal. So in storyline, he went into this man's home, okay? He invaded his home. He threatened his family. The appropriate response would be to fucking kill the guy. But short of that, if we control ourselves and we abide by the rules of our the laws of society here, which unfortunately not everybody does, this was an appropriate reaction for him to want to go in there and just tear this guy's head off. He's not going to go and wait for his music to play. He's not going to go and wait for Justin Roberts to do the ring introductions. He's not going to wait for the bell to ring. No, he's going to take the bell and he's going to try to bludgeon this man. So I like it. He took the fight right to Swerve right out of the gate. When a man breaks into your home, that's what you do. Now, Page connected on a buckshot lariat. We were only 30 seconds into this match, and he already hit a buckshot lariat. But again, no pinfalls here. He pulled out duct tape and a staple gun, and Page taped Strickland's hands together. He bound them together with the tape, and then he stapled his chest multiple times, including he took the rundown sheet for the show, and he stapled the rundown sheet to his arm. Page then decked him in the head with the edge of a chair, and that busted Swerve open. And when I say he got color, he was bleeding buckets here. Page then took one of his son's, I guess it was like a finger painting or something, I guess off the refrigerator inside the home that Swerve broke into. He took his son's painting and he stapled it to Swerve's face, and then he ripped it out. And then we got to the most disgusting part of the match. For all the shit that these two guys did to each other in this match. And this was still, we're in the first probably 5 minutes of this thing. This right here was the most disgusting part of the match, and the part that I hated. I hated this. Absolutely hated this. You know why? Because it reminded me of the Age of the Fall debut in Ring of Honor many years ago with Jimmy Jacobs and Jay Briscoe hanging upside down and bleeding on Jimmy Jacobs, bleeding on his white suit, bleeding into his mouth, right? That was a very controversial angle at the time. That has, I don't actually think it ever aired anywhere. I think it's been almost completely scrubbed. You could probably still find it on the internet, but that was a very infamous angle. And it reminded me of that. Here, what we had was Hangman laid underneath Swerve. Swerve was hunched over. Blood is pouring out of his head. And Hangman gets down underneath his face. He's looking up at him, and he opens his mouth as the blood is pouring, and he has the blood dripping into his mouth. And not just like, let me get under him and get a little bit of it and I'll get out of here. Like, he's just laying under there like he's at a water fountain. And the blood is gushing and he's drinking it. He's drinking the blood of Swerve Strickland. It was disgusting. And we see spots like this in wrestling. You won't see this in WWE, but you will see spots like this in AEW or GCW or other promotions. It's not like we haven't seen people licking blood before from other people. This was there. This is beyond that. Like, this is way beyond that. This is the part where I was like, John Moxley is sitting in the back going, man, I can't believe I didn't think of that. You know, Nick Gage is sitting, at home somewhere with an empty beer bottle next to him going, holy shit, look at this fucking guy. He's going a little too far here. Like, it's just sick shit. And to me, yes, it's a memorable spot. I'm talking about it. People are going to be talking about it the next day. It doesn't add anything to the match. Like, what does it add to the match? Him going after him with a staple gun and trying to kill this guy with all kinds of weapons and stuff. Like, I get that. To me, though, it does nothing to enhance the match. It's just stupid shock value shit. It's disgusting. I'm not a fan of it, so if you are, mazel tov, congratulations. I just think it's stupid. Page grabbed a barbed wire chair, and he was about to do a home run swing when Strickland got a low blow. I should have like a bell. I should have some kind of a bell that I push every time I say the words low blow. We should have a little counter in the corner. How many times is that on this show now? 4? I believe it's 4. He hit a low blow, and at that point, Nana was able to cut Swerve's hands free from the duct tape. Page stapled the chest of Swerve again with the staple gun, but this time Swerve no-sold it. And not only did he no-sell it, but then he took the staple gun and he ended up doing it to himself and kind of laughed it off, and he chucked the staple gun out of the ring. But he set up the barbed wire chair in the corner. He drove Hangman into it. Hangman now comes up bleeding from the head. Strickland then pulls out a cinder block, placed it on the apron, and he delivered a Death Valley driver onto the cinder block. So Hangman beat the 10 count. Both men fought standing on top of the guardrail. Now they're on top of the guardrail outside the ring, and they're fighting. And Swerve connects on a pile driver on top of the railing. Now, there's not a lot of runway there, right? It's a very narrow guardrail. And he was able to deliver a pile driver. He spiked him. And at that point, they got a close-up shot of Swerve's face. And it was just covered in blood. You've heard of the Crimson Mask expression before. I mean, he was wearing the Crimson Mask. I mean, he is just pouring blood. Nobody is coming over to check on him. Where's Doc Samson, right? He came over to check on MJF's knee. Oh, my knee hurts. This guy is literally, he's losing pints of blood. I don't see Doc Samson anywhere. The fuck is the doctor? Again, blow up this medical team. I'll keep saying it. So both men meet in the middle of the ring. Page hits a fallaway slam, but he can't kip up. Usually he kips right back up to his feet, but he can't do it. But he grabs a strand of barbed wire, and he rakes it over Swerve's face before wrapping him up in the barbed wire, and he hits another fallaway slam. With the barbed wire chair in his hand, Page hits a moonsault off the top rope to the floor. Prince Nana, he ran distraction long enough for Swerve to counter a buckshot lariat into a JML driver attempt, but he rolled through and he booted the barbed wire chair into Page's face. So now Swerve wants a tombstone onto the chair. Page, though, floats through. He hits one of his own. Strickland broke the count at 9, though. So Page leveled him with a chair shot to the back. Hangman wanted an avalanche deadeye. Strickland, though, wiggled free, and he hit a barbed wire chair shot to the back. And when he swung the chair, a strand of the barbed wire went over Hangman's head and basically kind of wrapped his head up a little bit. And they showed a replay of it. Strickland hit a sit-out powerbomb onto the chair, and then he went up top. He hit the Swerve stomp. Strickland grabbed a bag at this point. Now, normally when the little satchel comes out, you're expecting thumbtacks. Nope, we didn't get thumbtacks. We got the other thing that I hate. We had broken glass. Shards of broken glass. Now, is it real glass? Is it not real glass? I mean, Jack Perry is on the edge of his seat, watching this at home going, I hope it's real glass. I don't know if it is or not. It'll still cut the shit up out of you, though. And I just think it's stupid. Another thing, I just think it's just unnecessary and it's stupid. But there it is. They have a bag filled with shards of broken glass, and he dumps it on Hangman's back. And you can see where it's cutting up his back. Well, Swerve then goes up to the top rope. And in his infinite wisdom, with the shards of glass on top of Hangman Page, he delivers a 450 splash onto Page and the broken glass. Very smart. Follows that with a JML driver. Somehow, Page still manages to beat the 10 count. Because again, no pinfalls. Now, had he gone for the pinfall there, right, that might have been it, but there's no pinfalls. So Hangman is able to beat the count at 9. And Strickland then charged at him with both men, ends up spilling out over the top rope to the floor. Prince Nana pulls out a barbed wire board, and Swerve placed the board between 2 chairs in the ring. Strickland wanted an avalanche JML driver. Page, though, bit his way free, and he hit an avalanche fallaway slam instead. And then a powerbomb stack before finally nailing a deadeye onto the barbed wire board. Page then wrapped barbed wire around Swerve's face, and he delivered a buckshot lariat. Now that looked like it was it, right? This has to be the end of the fucking match. Until Prince Nana reaches in at the very last minute. He drags Swerve out. And when he drags him out, he's on his feet. So he broke the count. Now at this point, Brian Cage shows up. So now here comes the interference. Here comes the Mogul Embassy. Brian Cage comes out. Now, there was no Gates of Agony. I think they're in Japan right now. I think they're doing a tour with New Japan. But Brian Cage comes out. He lays out Page with a power bomb, a buckle bomb, and an F5 before setting up a table at ringside. By the way, now I'm watching this as Brian Cage is beating this guy up. And I'm like, what shitty friends the Young Bucks are, right? Like, I know their match is coming up next, but it's like, they're watching their friend here, their supposed friend, right? Oh, the elite, right? We're the elite. And Hangman Page is out there, and now this guy comes out. It's 2-on-1. Really, it's 3-on-1. Where are the Young Bucks? They can't be bothered to come out. What about Kenny Omega? What kind of shit friends are these? The hell does he have to be part of the elite for? Nobody comes out to help. So Cage tried a powerbomb. Page, though, raked the barbed wire into his face, and he hit multiple rolling elbows. Prince Nana jumped in. He hit Hangman across the back with a chair. And of course, it had no effect. And Nana sees this, and he goes, oh shit. And he goes to split. He makes it as far as the apron, and Hangman catches up to him. So then, they're both out on the apron now. And Nana knows that he's just caught, right? He's dead to rights. So he starts doing the dance. He's like this, right? He starts doing the dance. And this does not impress Hangman Page. So he picks up Nana. He gives him a dead eye through a table on the floor. That's the end of Prince Nana. At least for now. Page got back to his feet when Swerve came up behind him. He didn't see him coming. He had a cinder block, and he smashed the cinder block. He broke the cinder block over the back of his head. And then he wrapped a chain around Hangman's neck, and he literally hung him from around the ring post until basically he choked him out. Then he let go, and Hangman collapsed on the ground. The referee was there to count, and finally the referee counts to 10. Hangman Page is undefeated no more in Texas death matches. Mercifully, this match is now over. This was the most violent match in the history of AEW. There have been a lot of violent matches in this company. We had Nick Gage with a fucking pizza cutter on television against Chris Jericho. Remember Pizzagate and that whole controversy with Domino's Pizza? We've seen some sick shit on AEW pay-per-views and on AEW television before. I think it's safe to say that this was the most violent match in the history of the company. Frankly, I think this is one of the most violent matches that I have ever seen, period, is this one right here. They left everything out there. They left literal pieces of themselves in the ring, all their DNA around the ring, buckets of blood, skin, hair, all of it. They left it all on the line in this match. If you're going to do a Texas death match, this is probably what it should look like. When you have a personal issue and you add in a Texas death match stipulation, it shouldn't be a WWE-style Extreme Rules match. Right? That's not what this needed to be. This needed to be a violent, brutal, bloody affair. Did they go too far with some stuff? Yes. And again, the blood shit, I think that one spot, drinking the blood, disgusting. I have no interest in seeing that. But the violence and the intensity that we saw from especially Hangman Page here, it fit the story. And I like that aspect of it. And even the stuff that I didn't like about the match, I still think this was the best match of the entire show. And the thing I liked about it the most is the fact that Swerve went over. Because I thought they were going to do the predictable thing and Hangman's going to win and there'll be one win apiece and then they could do the rubber match. But now, I mean, look, we may get a third match, but Swerve has beaten him twice. Now, they could do a third match and make a cage match stipulation. So that way, theoretically, the cage is supposed to keep people out. We know how that works. But yeah, I could see this being a cage match, maybe at World's End. But I like the fact that Tony Khan had Swerve Strickland go over twice. None of this even Steven 50-50 bullshit. Swerve beat this guy twice. And now Swerve should be entered into that Continental Classic. Hangman should be in there too. Maybe that's where the rematch is. Maybe the rematch happens as part of the tournament. But he should definitely be part of the Continental Classic. But the key is to capitalize on it. That would be one way for them to capitalize on it. But 2024 is shaping up to be a big year for Swerve. The key is in the follow-up now. Tony Khan has given this man 2 big back-to-back wins on pay-per-view. Now what? That's great. Now what? Those are the 2 most important words. If you're a Swerve Strickland fan right now, or if you are Swerve Strickland, the 2 most important words in the world are, now what? How are you going to follow up on this? How are you going to capitalize on the momentum that you have now created for this man? People are going to be talking about this match for a long time to come. The key is in the follow-up. Hopefully, Tony Khan has a real plan for him. So far, I like where this is headed. But we've seen different examples of start and stop pushes and people being pushed and then they disappear. You can't do that. You've got something special here, and I want to see them capitalize on it. Even with Nana. Nana is a very entertaining part of the whole package here, right? They have a good thing going with these 2. But this was a violent, disgusting, brutal, gritty, hardcore match, the likes of which I don't know that I've ever seen. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho against the Young Bucks. If Omega and Jericho win, they get the Young Bucks tag team title opportunity that they have been sitting on for a while now. They get their shot. If the Young Bucks win, then Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho can never again team. And the Elite get back together. Except, I guess, for Hangman Page, because fuck that guy. I guess. But those were the stipulations for the match. I think this might have been a little bit more dramatic had Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho been partners for more than, 3 weeks? If Omega and Jericho lose, they can never again team up. They've been a tag team. They haven't even been a tag team for a full month. Like, who cares? They're not a real team. They've barely been together. But it's supposed to be a big thing where if they lose, they can't be partners anymore. It's like dating a girl for a month and then breaking up. Can you really call that a relationship? Back in the day, I would call that November. So Don Callis joined on commentary for the match. Omega shook hands with both Bucks before having a friendly back and forth with Nick Jackson to kick things off. Some fans in the crowd, I don't know if you picked up on it, but there were some fans in the crowd who tried to start a CM Punk chant while the Bucks were in the ring. And that was quickly drowned out by boos because the other fans in the crowd, they weren't having any of that shit. So whatever chants there were, they got drowned out pretty quick. Jericho and Matt Jackson tagged in. Jericho wanted to go after him with chops. So Omega, though, made the tag, and he allowed Matt to walk free. Right, still being very, very friendly with the Bucks here. The old Buckaroos. Matt suckered Omega into a test of strength, and he put the boots to him. But Omega responded by sending the Bucks outside. Terminator dive connected only on Matt, though. Nick got caught with a Jericho springboard dropkick. Matt caught Jericho. He trapped his arm between the ring and the ring steps. And he smashed it and Jericho came up with his arm bleeding. More blood. Although this one looked accidental. I don't think Jericho was blading his arm. So I'm going to say it was an accident. The Bucks worked over the arm of Jericho. I guess the arm of Jericho can join the list of Jericho and the scarf of Jericho and all the other wonderful things that Jericho has come up with in his career. Now we have the arm of Jericho. He made the tag to Omega. He ran wild on the Bucks, hit the You Can't Escape on Matt, into a lung blower on Nick, before following up with a moonsault to the floor. Matt wanted the walls of Jericho, but he got cradled for 2. And then Matt ducked a Jericho charge, and he collided with Omega. But Jericho fought back with the walls of Jericho. Nick wanted a springboard, but Omega pulled the legs out from under him, and Jericho let go of the hold because of the bad arm. Matt then slugged it out with Jericho. He leapt off the top, and he got caught, with Matt hitting a double Northern Light suplex on Jericho and Omega. Nick connected on a German suplex on the apron to Omega, and then the Bucks hit an assisted senton for 2. Jericho cut Matt off in the ropes and hit a Hurricane Rana, but with Aubrey Edwards' attention diverted, shocking, I know, with her attention diverted, Nick showed up and he hit, wait for it, a low blow. I know, right? It's shocking. He hit a low blow, and he got booed, right? The Bucks getting booed here in their backyard, getting booed in California. Omega was furious, obviously. He was very upset with that development, and when he turned around into a Matt Jackson low blow. More boos for the Bucks. Nick hit a Judas effect on Jericho, but Omega broke up the pin. Nick laid out Omega with a dive outside. The Bucks wanted a BTE trigger, and they got booed as they hit the move, but Jericho kicked out. Jericho got a low blow. This is ridiculous. I knew it was bad, but like now that I go back through these notes, like, my God. There's got to be some quality control on these shows. There has to be some cross communication here. I mean, it's just to the point of parody at this point. So now Jericho gets a low blow of his own on Nick Jackson. Omega was left in the middle of the ring. He had to choose between who to V-trigger because he had, in the ropes, his partner, Jericho, on one side. And on the other side, he had Nick Jackson. And at first, he went towards Jericho. Looked like he was going to give him a V-trigger. But he hit the ropes, he came off, and he hit Nick Jackson with it instead, and everybody cheered. So then we had Omega hitting multiple Snapdragons on Matt Jackson. Nick countered a one-winged angel attempt into a Poison Rana, and then he hit a one-winged angel of his own, but Omega kicked out. Jericho hit a code breaker on Nick Jackson. Then the super kick party dropped Jericho. Omega hit a ripcord V-trigger and a one-winged angel on Matt to win the match. For, what are they, the Golden Jets, right? That's what they call themselves. So the Golden Jets stay together. They pick up the win. Nick Jackson threw a fit at ringside when the match was over. He was pissed. And after the match, Omega wanted to be the bigger man. He wanted a handshake from the Bucks, and they wouldn't give it to him. Nick pulled Matt away from Omega. They continue their little hissy fit, their tantrum, outside the ring. Matt grabbed a chair. He started smashing the ring post with it over and over again. So the Bucks were not happy about their loss. The crowd was spent after that Hangman Page match with Swerve. But these four, they got the crowd into it. It's not like the crowd was dead, right? The crowd got louder. The crowd really got into it. I think the deeper into the match they went. So they were able to kind of turn things around because this is another example. This was the buffer match, right? It's kind of like putting the women's match after the ladder match. You have to have a come down. This was the come down match. This was the penultimate match on the show. But a lot of star power, right? All four guys in this match, the founding fathers of this company, basically. Not all of them, but most of them. And they were able to get the crowd into it. I thought they had a very good match here. And now Jericho and Omega are in line for an AEW tag team title match. They don't want none. They don't want none. They looking scared, but they don't really want none. Oh, it's Silver Tower. Silver Tower breaking in the new AJ Styles Superjet. They don't want none. Like a Mack truck, don't get run over. That was from last night. I turned that around pretty quick, too. I said, we have to make that a super chat. There you go. Hey, Silver Tower, thank you, brother. Thank you for breaking that one in. And then you like that, huh? Then we get to our main event. Finally, the main event of the evening. Or is it? I don't know. There was a lot of doubt going into this main event about whether or not we were even going to get it or not. The main event was to have been Adam Cole standing in for MJF to defend the AEW World Championship against Switchblade Jay White. Now think about this. Adam Cole, not the AEW champion, but standing in for the champion, taking on a man who has been walking around with the AEW World title for a month, but is not the actual champion. Confused yet? That was our main event. Adam Cole came out. He was wearing a t-shirt, shorts. He had his Ring of Honor World Tag Team title belt. Cole had crutches to get to the ring, and he had a walking boot, right? Same walking boot he had earlier. Jay White came out. He was joined on stage by the Guns. No Juice Robinson on this show because they did an angle last night where MJF hit him with a television backstage, and so he was out hurt. So they're mocking Adam Cole. They're limping around, and they're making fun of him. Justin Roberts does the ring introductions, and so it's like, all right, how are they going to get out of this, right? What are they going to do here? Now we hear sirens. They cut to outside the building, and the ambulance pulls up to the arena, and guess who's driving the ambulance? It's MJF. He hijacked the ambulance to take it back to the arena. Now, we've seen this countless times in wrestling before, and I'll ask the same question that I always ask. How is it that these guys can so easily hijack these vehicles and not get in any kind of trouble for it? Like me, I've always wanted to drive a police car so I could like ring the siren. I just think it would be cool, right? I've only been in the back of a police car once, but I would love one day to actually ride the police car itself. But if I went and I did that, right, they'd throw my ass in jail. I want to know what their secret is. I want to know why the rules don't apply to these people. What makes them so special? So he gets out of the driver's seat. He's got his left quad. So it's not his ankle. He's got his left quad all wrapped up, and he's limping back into the arena. So MJF is coming out, and the officials pour out. The agents pour out. No, you can't do it. You're not 100%. And again, I'm like, am I on planet Earth here? Why do we have a gaggle of officials coming out to try to stop MJF from getting into the ring? But they're okay with Adam Cole, who is about to go to his doom on one leg against Switchblade Jay White. That's okay. But no. We got to stop MJF from getting in the ring. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And no, I don't want to hear it's pro wrestling. It's just wrestling. I don't want to hear that. There are certain times where the question has to be asked. Stone Cold Solomonster. There are times where the question needs to be asked. This is one of those times. So we end up getting our original main event. But we have a handicapped MJF, right? The leg is his handicap now. He's not 100%. He delivers a right hand to Jay White, immediately crumbles to the mat. And Jay White goes right on the attack. MJF ended up outside the ring. He fought off the Guns, who got involved almost right away in this match. The Guns came back. They were threatening to smash MJF's leg again. They had him down. They had the steel chair. But this time, the referee, Bryce Remsburg, he sees them. And they're trying to, oh, no, right? They're begging, don't do it. And finally, Bryce ejects them. Big pop. Big pop for throwing the Guns out. So Jay White was taunting Adam Cole, making fun of him. He was trying to get a rise out of him outside the ring. MJF made a comeback on him, though. He even got a kangaroo kick. See, so they teased it on the pre-show, didn't give it to you, because they were saving it for the main event. Then he kipped up to his feet, even on the injured leg. He did a kip up on the injured leg. And he was doing his best to still sell the leg, but again, it's a pretty dumb thing to do. On a supposedly injured leg, he's kipping up on the leg. So Cole was encouraging him to follow up with a dive out onto Jay White. Now I'm thinking, okay, this guy's got to be going heel. He's encouraging his partner to do a dive on a bad leg. That's a heel spot right there. So Jay White, he comes back into the ring, though. He takes out the leg. And White delivered a huge Uranagi for a near fall, as Excalibur opined on commentary that Adam Cole being outside the ring was actually distracting MJF more than it was helping him. Well, yeah, of course it is. We all know how easily distracted these wrestlers are. I said it's like a cat with a laser pointer. You just shine it on the floor and that's it, right? They'll be occupied for the next 30 minutes. These wrestlers are the same way. They're very easily distracted. So MJF took an awkward spill out of the ring in front of the announcers. Took a wicked chop to the chest by Jay White. Not quite Gunther-esque, but, very respectable chop to the chest. MJF came back with a DDT on the floor. Then he pulled off the front cover of the announce desk. And MJF went to go place Jay White on top of the announce desk, and unfortunately, the desk collapsed. Because, the massive girth, I guess, of Jay White, right? He's 400 pounds, this guy. So the table collapses.
Look, everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
Hey, Martin. Is it Martin or Marlin? Might be Marlin. Thank you, sir, for the Samoa Bro. I appreciate you. It is Marlin. Thank you, Marlin. So, not to be deterred, MJF is like, I'm going to finish this fucking spot. He goes all the way up to the top rope. Now, Jay White is laying on the ground. MJF is all the way up on the top rope, and on a bad leg, he does a diving Randy Savage-esque elbow drop all the way to the floor, right on top of Jay White, which was more devastating than it would have been if the table had actually been upright, right? No give. Just straight down on the floor. Big spot. And probably big pain for his hip, would be my guess, on that landing. So he drops the big elbow on the floor. Both men are down for a while until MJF recovers and he puts White back inside. But when he tries to climb back in, Jay White gives him a dragon screw leg whip in the ropes. And then he hung MJF upside down in a tree of woe. Climbed to the top. MJF, though, reached up. He grabbed him and he suplexed him over. Then he fired up and he pulled himself back up vertically. But Jay White nailed him from behind. And then we got an avalanche Uranagi by the challenger,
It's
Jay
the
White.
amazing Gunther. Jerry Lawler loves
Oh, it's Marlin
Gunther,
again.
The magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Hey, Marlin. Marlin Campbell Jr. chiming in with a $50 Gunther super chat. That's Marlin's second drop of the, at least second that I noticed, second drop of the night. Hey, Marlin, thank you, brother. Going to be getting to your message here in a little bit. Don't go nowhere. But Jay White hit an avalanche Uranagi all the way to the mat. Jay White covers, only gets a near fall out of it. So now Jay White sets up for Blade Runner, but MJF counters out with a rolling elbow. White comes back with a flatliner and then a snap German. Goes for the Blade Runner, but nope, it gets countered. MJF with a roll-up. Jay White counters with a roll-up. MJF turns it into a tombstone pile driver. And now both men were down. Adam Cole starts pounding on the mat. He's trying to rally his partner. He's trying to get the crowd to rally behind MJF. And they do. MJF goes for the Heat Seeker. It gets countered as Jay White shoves him off, and MJF now down once again. But then he gets back to his feet, and this was a pretty crazy spot. So look, the diving elbow to the floor with no table, right? That's a pretty crazy, pretty dangerous spot. But now MJF, who you can tell he's kind of feeling his oats here as a babyface. We've seen him try all kinds of crazy stuff that he never would have done when he was a heel. Well, this next spot was a perfect example of that. because he goes, now Jay White is on the apron, and MJF is in the ring, and Jay White is shit-talking him, and MJF comes charging in towards Jay White, and he hits a leaping cutter, okay, and he clears the top rope. Now, we've seen people do, I've seen, I think, Dragon Lee and, you know, some of the smaller cruiserweight guys do moves like this where they do the diving Hurricane Rana, like the diving no-rope Hurricane Rana over the top rope. MJF hits a charging diving cutter, clears the top rope, he hooks Jay White, and he takes him all the way down to the floor with a cutter. It looked great. Like, the landing and everything looked great. It's an insanely dangerous move. It takes a lot of trust and cooperation on a spot like that, but he pulled it off. Holy shit. I mean, what a spot. And he stuck the landing, and it looked great, and everybody popped huge for it. And Adam Cole had a look on his face like he couldn't believe what he just saw. So MJF is taking full advantage of this babyface turn to try things that he never would have tried otherwise. And thankfully he came up okay and didn't kill himself. But holy shit. That was the highlight of the match as far as the big spots were concerned. That was it right there. So now Adam Cole is all fired up. And he's telling MJF, all right, this is yours for the taking. This is it, right? This is his time to capitalize. Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that. Silver Tower just dropped a $200 Canadian super chat here on YouTube. That is I think American was about 145, right? I think that's a 145 spot. Always trying to get my conversion right. Hey, Silver Tower, man, thank you. That means a lot. That is a lot. You and ABK both from earlier, man. Those are two big bombs right there. So shout out to Silver Tower, man. He has been on fire all night long. All the new members. Now this guy's a house of fire. Well, I'll tell you who else was a house of fire. MJF was a house of fire because Adam Cole was rallying behind him, and he rolls Jay White back inside. He covers him, only gets two. So now he takes the leg wrap that's around his thigh, his quad, and he pulls it down, I guess, to try to relieve some pressure, I guess. But the first step he takes, he immediately just collapses to the mat in agony. And he tries to get up again, and again he collapses. This time Bryce calls over Doc Samson. Oh, Doc Samson! Oh! Look who it is. It's Doc Samson, everybody. See, I thought he was eating Cheetos in the corner and watching QVC on his phone. No, apparently Doc Samson was there. So the good doctor gets in the ring to check on MJF here. And MJF is telling him, no, right? I'm good. He starts pounding on the mat. He gets back up. Jay White gets him down, though. He delivers a wrenching dragon screw to the leg. Then another one, this time in the opposite direction. And now Jay White sinks in the figure four leg lock. But not before hawking a loogie at Adam Cole on the floor, right? Spits right at him. So now Adam Cole, I noticed, has a yellow towel in his hand. And you could hear the fans there saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it. They don't want him to throw the towel in. And he's teasing that he might throw it in. And MJF is now in a figure four leg lock. And Cole is seriously considering it. And MJF looks over at him and he goes, no, don't do it. Like, do not do this. Right? So he's dragging himself towards the bottom rope. And he almost has the bottom rope. But then Jay White drags him back to the center of the ring. And MJF is trying to fight through it. Crowd is with him, and finally he reverses the figure four leg lock. Now it's Jay White who's reaching for the bottom rope. And finally he makes a desperate dive. He gets the rope right in front of Adam Cole. Cole has his Ring of Honor World Tag Team title belt. And he's thinking of hitting... Jay White is right there. And he's thinking of hitting Jay White with it, but he is hesitating. Now I'm thinking, okay, again, you get that vibe like there's going to be a big angle they're going to shoot here. There's going to be a big turn. The devil or something is going to happen here, right? And Jay White grabs the belt away from him and he clobbers MJF with it. The referee did not. I don't know what the referee was doing at this point. I don't know why he wouldn't have seen this, but he didn't see it. MJF gets clobbered and Jay White covers him, but MJF kicks out, right? Big reaction for the near fall. Jay White reaches down for MJF's legs while MJF is holding onto the bottom rope, and he kicks off Jay White. And Jay White goes backwards, and he collides with the referee. And down goes Bryce. So now the referee is down. There's your ref bump. And MJF smiles, and Adam Cole places the Dynamite Diamond
Look,
ring.
everyone, it's Samoa Bro.
The Dynamite Diamond ring. Hey, thank you, Marlon. On the apron, and he grabs the Dynamite Diamond ring. Jay White, though, pulls MJF back. And he grabs the diamond ring instead. So now he has possession of the ring. He places it on his finger. He goes for the kill shot, but MJF delivers, I shit you not, a low blow. I think they should rename this pay-per-view. Instead of Full Gear, it should be Low Blow. I mean, it just makes sense to me, right? I think that would be quite the fitting name, actually. So he delivers a low blow. MJF gets the ring, though. Here come the guns after being ejected earlier, and he knocks them down. Jay White tries for Blade Runner. MJF avoids it, nails him with the ring. He covers him, and he gets the win, finally, to retain his AEW World Championship. And MJF is celebrating now in the ring. And Adam Cole is in the ring. He climbs into the ring to join his partner. And the two of them hold up the big Burberry belt. MJF has his belt back finally after a month or whatever it's been. And they're posing with the championship. The announcers remind us that Samoa Joe is still waiting in the wings, right? Because MJF promised him a shot at the title. And that's how they went off the air. And again, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, okay, is something going to happen here? Is something going to actually happen? Is Cole going to hit him in the back with the crutch? Like, it felt like something was coming. And then nothing happened. MJF was talking into the camera, and he was, obviously very happy that he made it out with his title, and he was selling the leg, and Adam Cole was very proud of his partner, and it was all very hunky-dory, and that was it. And that's how the show went off the air, just a feel-good babyface win to close things out. But they had you with the tension, right? They had me in different moments, and it was designed that way, right? That's not by accident. That's done that way on purpose. They wanted you to believe at least 3 or 4 different times during this match that Adam Cole was going to do something to screw MJF out of this championship and end their partnership, and it didn't happen. The two of them are still together because Adam Cole is really hurt. I mean, look, if he had pulled the boot off and showed everybody that he was all healed up and fine, and then he cracked that fucking crutch over MJF's head or something like that, yeah, it would have been a huge moment. Right? It would have been a huge angle, it would have been a huge turn, but he is hurt. And look, what they did here, this is certainly one way to tell a story. They chose to go in a certain direction on this show with this story. That's the story they told. And you had to check your brain at the door that Tony Khan would allow Adam Cole to stand in for this guy. Again, that's just ridiculous. But once the bell rang, MJF and Jay White, they had a stellar main event. I thought this was an excellent match. And let's not pretend that we haven't had similar types of stories before in wrestling where the babyface has to fight back valiantly from some sort of obstacle or injury, right down to stealing a fucking ambulance and driving it back to the building. We've seen that before too. And in the end, they get the win. I didn't come away from this thinking, well, that's it. Jay White is done. He's done. He's buried. Shovel the dirt on his grave. No, Jay White is not buried. Jay White was kept very strong for the past month and a half. They built him up. They gave him as much credibility as they could. They gave him a rare pinfall win on television over MJF. You know how often that happens? Not very often. They did everything to try to convince you he was going to win. Funny enough, what it did, I think, is convince most people that he wasn't. But Jay White is going to be okay. All right, let's not overreact to the fact, oh my God, a guy on one leg beat him. I mean, again, MJF was doing stuff in the ring. He was doing dives. He was jumping out of the ring doing cutters. He was kipping up. He didn't come across as much of a one-legged guy to me. He looked like a guy that had a Charlie horse in his leg. Shook it off, and he was okay for most of the match. But he also cheated at the end there. Right? If you think about it, he kind of cheated to win. So I thought they had an excellent match, and it just continues this pattern that MJF has had all year long. He's had a series of excellent title defenses against everybody from Bryan Danielson to Adam Cole, Samoa Joe, Kenny Omega. They had that great match on Collision a few weeks ago. Now Jay White. MJF, even the Four Pillars match that he had, with Jungle Boy and Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara. When he goes in there on these big pay-per-view events, or even on TV, right? It was the 30-minute match, I think it was, with Adam Cole, their first match back in June, the Omega match. I mean, he goes in there and he has the goods. He goes out there and he delivers. And for a long time, there was this argument among some people in the IWC that, well, MJF is a great promo, but he can't really work. And I'm happy to see that I don't really see that sentiment anymore. I mean, how could you? How could you say something like that? If you actually watch the guy's work, his body of work, there isn't a single person alive who could say that with a straight face. That's why, he has all the tools. That's why he is the top guy in this company. Because he can talk, he can work, he's a great representative and a great spokesperson for the company. He's in the position that he is in for a reason. And I personally don't believe for a second that he's not already re-signed with the company. So they could work the whole bidding war of 2024 thing. I don't buy it. He's basically their centerpiece. If they lost him, as big of a loss as Cody Rhodes was for AEW, losing MJF would be devastating. It's something Tony Khan just could not afford to do. So anyway, his body of work continues. He's had a stellar year as far as his matches are concerned. We didn't get any developments as far as the Devil. I really wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you. I think all roads point to World's End. I think it's all in the name. I think MJF's entire world, his entire world may come crumbling down on that show. I'm not convinced he's making it into 2024 as the champion. I think he could very well lose his title on that show, depending on who he's wrestling. We may get the big development with the Devil on that show. Adam Cole being the Devil in many ways, it would make sense. I think the injury, though, makes it not impossible. There's always a way that you can still pull it off. But if he is going to be out for a very long time and not physically cleared to do anything, I just don't see what the upside is. Unless they can find a way to keep this Devil shit going for another 6 months, which I think is just ridiculous. I think that's impossible without having some kind of major reveal. It's not going to be him because he's hurt. But it keeps the mystery going as far as who the person is going to be under the mask. Is it Jack Perry? Is it a new signing? Right? How does Wardlow fit into this whole situation? Wardlow is promising that MJF, basically, he's going to lose everything. Right? One of these days, he's going to lose it all. Where does he fit into this picture? Samoa Joe, who lost the Grand Slam, is getting another title opportunity. Is he just going to lose again? Or is there a chance that Samoa Joe this time could very well walk away with the AEW World title? Maybe he factors into this Devil stuff in some way. So they still have that hook. I'm thinking World's End is when we find out more about that. But on the whole, I thought this was a very strong show. I thought it was an excellent show overall. Excellent main event. Very good TBS title match. I enjoyed the Toni Storm stuff because I just love the Toni Storm stuff they're doing. The Hangman Swerve match was sadistic, but brutal. Absolutely brutal. Memorable. One of the most violent matches I've ever seen. And would be a proper blow-off to their feud if that's what it was. So there was really strong work all around. There really weren't any bad matches on the entire show. So it's a strong thumbs up from me. Let's see what you guys thought. 63% have given this show a thumbs up. 20% thumbs in the middle, 16% thumbs down. So a little weaker than I would have thought on the thumbs up, although thumbs up is dominating. But there you go. At Solomonster on Twitter. You guys can go ahead and vote. And let me know what you thought of Full Gear. It's a long show. I feel like I'm always coming away feeling that way when I look at the clock and I'm only at the Super Chats. And it is 2:30 in the morning. So no wonder I feel that way. But we still have 1,300 plus here, so I got to thank you guys for sticking with me this long. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. I'll tell you what, let me see here if we can get the... There we go. There we go. I was about to go with a different screen because it wasn't working again, but we got it working. We got it working again. All right. Let's blow through these here. See what you guys have to say. 4:30 in the morning. Bret Hart, where are you? Bret Hart says it's 4:30 where he is. Man. Fire Panda, thank you. $20. Shout out to Fire Panda. Of our new mods. Chris O'Neill says, great show. He was a big fan of Full Gear. Gary Koschuk with the $5. Too many wiener shots for one show, but solid start to finish. All hail Gunther. Wiener shots? I must not have been paying attention. Hey, Dr. Bropio, have a good night. Carlos Galvan. Hey, Solomonster, just left Full Gear, my first AEW show, and it was an unbearable or unbelievable. Two very, very different words. It's amazing how changing just one word can change the entire meaning of that entire super chat. He says it was an unbelievable experience, not an unbearable experience. A great present for my birthday tomorrow. Well, Carlos, I don't know if you mean that, I think he means today is his birthday because he sent this 2 hours ago, so. I don't know if your birthday is Sunday or Monday, but happy birthday, brother. Die with the $7. Was at the show, great event. Texas Death was wild as hell. Main event had us shouting Adam like maniacs. Will Ospreay, bruv. Right, bruv. I think we got about 8 bruvs in that promo. Rodimus Prime. One word to describe the Texas Death Match is brutal. I agree. Wholeheartedly. Paul Carpenter, my respect went up for Adam Page. Didn't like him at all, but he was great. Keep him away from the elite. Swerve Strickland should be a villain in movies. Bender McSimpson. Hangman Swerve had a great match and maybe stole the show. MJF and Jay White told a great story. Jay White is a star. I'm glad you're finally coming around to that. Jay White is a star. Jay White is great. And he says, lots of great matches, but put some respect on the TBS triple threat match. It'll get lost in the conversation, but it was a great match. Absolutely. That's why I put it over the way that I did. It should not be lost in the conversation. It was not the best match on the show, but I thought it was very good. John Baltazar got floor seats at Full Gear. It was awesome. That Hangman Swerve match was brutal. The crowd could not believe what was happening. I couldn't believe what was happening, let alone the crowd. Bender McSimpson, I hope AEW is not bringing in a Continental title. I don't know if Tony Khan addressed this at the press scrum after the show. I imagine he did. If anybody heard the press scrum and has an update on that, let me know. I'm hoping it's not a new title that's being... I mean, my God. The last thing this fucking company needs is more titles. Titles and low blows. It's the last thing they need. Darth Bullsy, thank you for that $50 Gunther bomb. Is not saying I am a fan of AEW. However, I do agree that when it comes to AEW, people seem to not like anything they do. Example, Will Ospreay. Just one example. People say they want storylines from AEW. When they get one, they complain anyway. Yeah, that's the other argument that I like. Well, AEW has no stories. Really? Tell me you're not somebody who actually watches the show without telling me that you're somebody who doesn't watch the show. It's hard to take those arguments in good faith when you hear things like that, because I watch the shows every single week. Sometimes I love them and sometimes I don't like them so much. But one thing you can't say is that there are no stories on AEW television. Now, there are certain things that have no stories, but you can't say that there are no stories. This has been probably their most story-driven year. So I don't see how people can still make that argument. It just doesn't make sense. Isaiah with the $10 super chat. I haven't been watching wrestling recently with Bray passing and Punk getting fired. It has bummed me out. I still make sure to tune into your reviews every week, though. Well, Isaiah, I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad that you're sticking with me. When there is something worth watching, I will tell you. And when there isn't, you can just tune in and hang out with the rest of us. Andre Israel might get some heat for this, and she's improved, but I feel a lot of people have been overhyping Julia Hart. And I'm willing to give her title run a shot, and hopefully she does well as the champion. She's definitely improved. I'm not saying that she is Kairi Sane or Io Skye or Julia or Mercedes Moné, but she has made great improvements from where she was. I remember her when she was the cheerleader with the varsity blondes, and I would see her occasionally wrestle, maybe on Dark or something, and it was like, all right, she's young. She was like 20, and clearly very green, very wet behind the ears, but, you know, you look at her now, and you can see the improvements being made. You know, she's able to put together a match in there with somebody like a Kris Statlander that doesn't look like someone who is inexperienced and shouldn't be on television. There were people who looked like they had no business being on television. So I don't really see it as overhyping. I think that, I think the praise is justified. I think it's fine to put her over and acknowledge the fact that she's better now than she was before. That's the direction that you hope that she's going in. ABK, again, my goodness, a $411 super chat. It says, the masked man is Ric Flair telling MJF in order to be the man, you have to beat the man. One more match for Ric Flair. Oh my God. ABK, don't do this to me. I put you over, brother. I put you over strong. Don't make me bury you now. ABK, thank you. J-Ray. Solomonster, I did more research about Tony Khan's tweet. Continental Championship is a trophy, not an actual title belt. Just like the Owen Hart Cup, hopefully that clears up the confusion. Well, there you go. That's the answer I was looking for. You know, it's fine if he wants to give out a trophy, but I still think that there should be something bigger than that on the line. A trophy doesn't mean anything. A trophy you see one day and then it goes on a mantle and you never see it again. There should be something like a shot at the AEW World Championship on the line. You know? Or they could even do something where if they're going to hold the Continental Classic every year at the end of the year, maybe the winner of the Continental Classic gets a shot at the world title at Revolution or something. Or there's some sort of big event, kind of like what King of the Ring there for a while was to SummerSlam, where the Royal Rumble is to WrestleMania. It's something like that. I always like it when they can structure it that way. See, that's what I was kind of hoping it would be. Silver Tower with the brand new $60 AJ Styles Super Chat. I'm glad you liked it. Domination Warrior are Majima and Kiru banned from Collision. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just for those names. They're banned from Collision. Marlon Campbell Jr. Been a listener since 2015. Love the channel. Love Seth Rollins, but he is no Macho Man. Period. That's right. There is no Macho Man. There is only one Macho Man, and unfortunately, he is no longer with us. Marlon says, what? Love the what chants, always have. Love the channel, though. My first 2 super chats, just wanted to show some support. Thank you for the content always. Marlon, I appreciate that. Thank you. Even though I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that first part. Silver Tower. Dropping a Canadian super chat, which converted to $144 US. How many memberships is that tonight? Is it just the 50? 50 yesterday, 50 today, right? And then this? It's incredible. This guy is unbelievable. Tuxedo T Servo, thank you for the 10 spot. Marlon is back with another $19.99. One more. I'm spending tonight on your stream. I like that. Again, I don't super chat at all, but just wanted to show some support tonight. Thank you for all the content. Opinion on the Ruthless Aggression period, 2002 to 2007. I was a big fan of SmackDown that was the A show from 02, really 02 and 03. 04, I felt like it started to fall off. It wasn't as good. So I was a huge fan of SmackDown from 02 to 03 and that roster they had. I thought that was SmackDown at its best. SmackDown at its peak. Then you get into the other like 05, 06, 07. Honestly, not a big fan. Not a huge fan of that period. I mean, I enjoyed the stuff, especially the Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle stuff from 05. But to me, 02 and 03, especially on the Blue brand, that to me was the peak. And Raw, from 02 to 04, that was I mean, to me, in so many ways, it was the dark days. But I know some people love that period, so to each their own. But hey, Marlon, I appreciate you chiming in tonight. Charlie Sanchez just got back from the venue, and it was amazing. This is the final AEW pay-per-view I attended this year, and I'm so happy my hometown delivered. My top is Full Gear, tie with All Out and Revolution and Double or Nothing. Did you go to all the shows this year? Or are you just ranking this one against those? Because if you went to all of them, I mean, that's some dedication there. Sean D says, okay, I've marinated on it. Jay should have won. Look, I mean, I wouldn't have hated it, but it seemed pretty clear to me that he wasn't going to win. So it's not like I thought that they made a huge mistake or anything like that. MJF he's on a run right now. Do you interrupt that run to put the belt on Jay White? You could do that, put over Bullet Club Gold and have MJF fight to get it back. But I think it would interrupt whatever they have planned for World's End. I don't hate it, and who's to say that, he won't get it next year? Miles Woods, do you think Hangman could end up in WWE eventually, or do you think pretty much starting the whole downfall of Punk when he went into business for himself stained his value to them? Hangman Page's value, whatever value he has to WWE, was not, I guarantee you, it's not affected one iota by the CM Punk stuff. Not one bit. If he wanted to go to WWE and they found out he was available, they would make a play for him. I guarantee you that factors not 1 ounce into their view of Hangman Page. Now, could he end up there eventually? It's wrestling. So never say never. Could he end up there? Sure. Do I think he's going to? I don't think so. I think he's happy where he is. It's the sense I get. But yeah, I mean, look, again, anything can happen, right? We've seen a lot of strange things. If you would have told me that Cody Rhodes as the EVP of AEW would end up in WWE last year, I would have said you're out of your mind. I would have said you were nuts. Look what happened. Never say never. Miles, thank you. I think I'm all caught up. I believe I am. Adam Page and Logan Paul. The Battle of the Buckshots. I always think of poor CM Punk at Double or Nothing last year and his ill-fated attempts at the Buckshot. Poor Punk. Even Larry the dog was making fun of him for that. All right, you smashed the goal, so let's not waste any more time. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Oh my goodness, a very late edition of Be the Booker. Hey, Charlie is back with another $5. He says, I've attended these live. I was hoping to attend World's End in Long Island. That's on Long Island. I will correct you. It would have been my first time in New York. Well, I'll be the first to tell you, you could do a lot better than the Nassau Coliseum. I've been to the Nassau Coliseum. And for your first time in New York, you're probably better off at the UBS Arena, honestly. Either that or Madison Square Garden. But hopefully you'll make it to New York one of these days. That's very cool, though. He's been to all of those AEW shows live and in person this year. That's very cool. And I am very tired. So let's get through this here. All right. You know, it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just realized that I am not even done preparing for the podcast tomorrow. Like, I'm... That's why your support means so much to me, because I don't know why I'm doing this. I really don't. I'm going to get 3 hours of sleep. I don't know when this podcast is going to be done tomorrow, but I guess we'll figure it out. All right, here we go. Be the Booker. We have The Bar. Sheamus. Look at that mohawk. Sheamus and Cesaro. They were a good team. Sheamus and Cesaro getting us started here in Be the Booker. They're going to be stepping into the ring with, well, look who it is. It is Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Still never got that singles match between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. I wonder what Keith Lee is thinking. Watching, I'm sure he's probably proud of Swerve and happy for him, but you got to know, like, deep down, he's got to be thinking, man, you know, like, why can't I be in a position like that? Like, I should be in that position. What happened with Keith Lee? But that'd be a great match, though. Lee and Swerve against The Bar. That'd be a very good match. Okay, women's Be the Booker. Let's give it a go here. See how we do. We've got B-Fab. B-Fab has been flirting with Bobby Lashley on television for weeks. But we have not seen B-Fab in the ring. So I have a feeling I know how this Be the Booker is going to end. But let's first see who she's in the ring with. And we have got Zelina Vega. Not a knock on Zelina, but B-Fab could have used more time in the ring in NXT. If she's going to be in the ring, then that is the place for her to be. She was not ready to be called up as an in-ring performer. As a manager, as a valet, as a character on the show, sure. In the ring, though, not so much. And our main event. Our main event of the evening. We are kicking things off with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now look at Austin here. He's handcuffed. You know what that means? That means he was about to be put in the back of a police cruiser, which means that he was booked, and then he was released, and then he hijacked a cop car and drove it back to the building. See, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier with MJF. Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think we're ending on a high note here. Stone Cold Steve Austin again. Oh my God. You know what? I'm intrigued. I'm trying to visualize what this would look like. Stone Cold Steve Austin against Nick Gage. Holy shit. What kind of match would that be? I would pay to see that match. I would pay to see that. I want to see how that match ends up. It would be very interesting. Prime Stone Cold against Nick Gage. I was going to say Prime Nick Gage, but I mean, honestly, has there ever been Prime Nick Gage? Was there ever really a Prime for Nick Gage? Probably not. That is a match I never would have even imagined thinking about. Austin and Nick Gage. That is weird, right? That is a weird match. Tell you what, though, Austin's not going to put up with that pizza cutter. That pizza cutter crap, he's not going to put up with that. I don't know if Austin would agree to do that. No, he would agree, but under certain conditions. Oh, man. Anyway, it is very late, and most of you stuck with me, so thank you for that. Hope you enjoyed this review. I enjoyed the pay-per-view overall. I'll talk more about it at some point on the podcast tomorrow. And a bunch of other things, including Survivor Series predictions, coming up tomorrow as well. And we'll talk about, we got an NWA update, a Nick Hogan update. He might still be behind bars. Yeah, real winner. So we'll talk about that on episode 835 of The Sound Off tomorrow. Do me a favor, hit that like on the way out. Leave a comment on the video. You can leave a super thanks as well. Post-stream in the comments section. Super thanks are open as well for those not aware of it. But for ABK and Fire Panda and Silver Tower and Marlon and everybody else tonight who supported and became a member and hung out with me again, it really does mean a lot here. We're celebrating 16 years of the podcast this month, all month long. And it's very cool to see the kind of support that I get on, not only with the podcast, but on the channel as well. So be well, stay safe, have yourselves a good morning, I guess. And guess what? We get to do it again next weekend because we have Survivor Series coming up in a week. But I'll see you tomorrow for episode 830, or later today. I'll see you later today for episode 835. Until then, take care, guys.